All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. What's wrong with the microphone? I'm pretty sure I was muted. I hope I was muted. I should have been muted. No, I think we sorted everything out, Prince, with the mic. Pretty sure we sorted everything out. But yes, welcome back to the stream, guys. Appreciate you joining me today. Thank you for waiting patiently for that intro to finish up. I hope everybody's doing well today. Yeah, Prince is confused because he's like, whoa, why are you thanking us for being early? You're a half hour late. I am. I'm 30 minutes late to the stream today, but you may notice that we are streaming in 4K. All right. So we're going to go back to streaming in 4K. I'm not sure how the quality is. Hopefully it's good. So if that's, if that's something you want to do, get to see everything higher quality boss, hopefully. Ray says, listen to Mrs. MBG, smack the like button. Yeah, guys, for those of you who are here, again, thank you for being here early. Make sure you hit that like button. It helps with everything. Lets me know you guys are enjoying the content. Helps with the YouTube algorithm. Do you want to move this up ever so slightly? Had to readjust everything since I switched over to 4K. I think everything looks good. But we have some PlayStation topics to go over and talk about today. Mr. B, you're saying hopefully DS2 sells well on Steam. Yeah, that's one of the topics we're going to be discussing. The first topic we're going to discuss has to do with Ghost of Yotei and the latest patch that came out, the New Game Plus patch. Apparently, there was some testing done, and you can now enable VRR and have an uncapped frame rate. And if you do so, at least on the PS5 Pro, I don't think the base PS5 has been tested yet, but on the PS5 Pro, you're getting some significant results. You're getting what seems to be a pretty significant boost overall. So we're going to cover that, go over that update, maybe watch a video or something on it. And we're also going to be talking about a new rating for Death Stranding 2 for PC. It's coming to PC seemingly very soon. The announcement seems to be imminent. So, it's just an excuse to talk about Death Stranding once again. And, we'll also talk about the fact how this is coming to PC very soon, which is the opposite of what we've been hearing, right? There's been some rumblings, some talks that maybe Sony's pulling back on PC. But, right after, we're finding out, no, Death Stranding 2 is coming to PC, bro. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to be talking about Destiny 3. We're talking about Destiny 3 because, well, it seems to be confirmed that Destiny 3 is apparently in very early development, which is funny timing because we must have spent, I don't know, an hour and a half, possibly almost 2 hours yesterday talking specifically about Bungie, talking specifically about the future of that studio, the future of the Destiny franchise, and the very next day we're getting a rumor, or a leak, I should say, from what seems to be a credible Bungie insider that they are beginning work on Destiny 3. So this could give us, a good idea, I guess, of what the future of Bungie looks like once PlayStation has full control and Marathon is shipped. So we'll cover that as well. There are a couple of other smaller things, such as the Destiny 2 Renegade. I guess it's an expansion, a full expansion that's coming out. This is what Bungie's going to do to try to revive Destiny 2. We're also talking about Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. Apparently this remake, which has been MIA for like the last 5 years, is about to be re-revealed imminently, and the release is actually going to be very soon. But we also have the PlayStation Plus games to go over as well. This was literally just announced by Sony, so we'll probably start there. But guys, before we dive into any of these topics, please do me a favor. Like I said, hit that like button. But if you want to support the channel directly, there are a couple of ways in which you can do that. You can become a channel member. You gain access to exclusive perks, such as the Members Lounge, members-only content, and occasionally members-only gameplay. Consider gifting memberships. We're going to try to hit a goal of 25 members today. If we do that, we'll feed Boss a couple of treats, probably Luna as well. Or you can drop a super chat. We have a goal of 10 super chats. If you hit that, you pop confetti in the chat, which is a nice little thing that YouTube does, or direct donations. These are all ways in which you can support the channel directly. We are completely fan-funded. You guys are essentially the sponsors of the channel, so a big thank you to everybody who makes this possible. But we are going to start with PlayStation Plus. So over on the PlayStation blog, they say to mark the year's end and to start the holiday celebrations early, we're pleased to make December's PlayStation Plus monthly games lineup a special one with additional bonus titles available to PS Plus members in select regions. So the first game here is Horizon Lego Adventures, or Lego Horizon Adventures, just for PS5. I don't know, how many of you guys played this game already or are going to play it through PlayStation Plus, but that's the game that's leading the way. And we have Soyu, a.k.a. Mr. Hamster, saying, hey, what's up, MBG? What's going on, Mr. Hamster? Long time no see. It's cool to see you still lurking around here. Hope you're doing well, bud. Mr. Hamster, you've been here a long time, bro. But, yeah, the first game leading the way for PlayStation Plus for December is Lego Horizon Adventures. Maybe not the most surprising. Also, maybe not the most exciting. Apparently, that's them making it special. But I also want to let you know that these games are going to be available starting Tuesday, December 2nd, and they will be available until January 5th. And again, this is for PS Plus. Actually, I think, if I'm understanding this correctly, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at the PlayStation blog. Is this for all tiers? Surely this isn't for all tiers, is it? Because this is a lot of games. I may be misunderstanding this. Let me double check. I don't think it is, because they say No, actually it is. No, this is for Essential. I'm sorry. I'm very confused. I confused myself for a moment. No, these are the Essential games for next month. I don't know why. I guess because there was more games than normal. I was like, oh, these are the extra games for December. No, these are the Essential that we're going over. So my bad. But yeah, Lego Horizon Adventures. Next up, Killing Floor 3. I'm not sure how many Killing Floor fans we have here. I'm not sure how that game turned out. I did play Killing Floor 2. Another one is the Outlast Trials. So if you're a fan of Outlast, this is like their asymmetric multiplayer. The next title is Synduality Echo of Ada. I have absolutely no idea what this game is. Never heard of it. And then finally, you have Neon White. Neon White is also available on PS4, as is the Outlast Trials. Every other game is PS5 only, but there you go. Those are the PlayStation Plus Essential monthly games starting December 2nd. And again, that was just announced. Diego, we're going to talk about that. I mean, I don't know that anybody's really viewing it that way. Oh, a Death Stranding 2 Shadow Drop on PC. That would be interesting. Boss, let's get you on your tower. We have the Universal Gamer, 87, using his milestone chat. He's been a member for 28 months. I appreciate that, Universal Gamer. Reminds me of the movie Universal Soldier. And he says, Happy Christmas, MBG, and everyone watching from Scotland. Feed the beast. Boss, it's too early. We can't feed the beast yet. Don't listen to him. Thank you for that, Universal Gamer. Happy Christmas to you, or Merry Christmas to you as well. For where I am, I'm in the United States. We have Thanksgiving coming up literally tomorrow. So we'll be doing Thanksgiving tomorrow and then Christmas next month. It's always a busy time. Dude, come on. Come on. I have to. All right. All right. So I don't want to spend too much time on the PlayStation Plus lineup. That wasn't even like a topic that I had really to discuss. But I just wanted to. I wasn't able to get that in the video I put out earlier too, because that news came out. Oh, I just realized my notification. Hold on. I gotta fix that. I knew I forgot something. The alert box. I gotta readjust that. I'm gonna do this again to see how it looks. So I'm gonna. Okay, so that's what the member looks like, and let me just replay this as well. Make sure it's all good. Sorry about that. I should have had this set up already. All right, yeah, there we go. That's good. I think that's the only thing I forgot. All right, so yeah, I want to dive into the first topic here, which is talking about this Ghost of Yotei PS5 Pro boost. So I did come across this on WCCF Tech. They say the new Ghost of Yotei 1.100 patch introduces significant performance improvements on PlayStation 5 Pro by enabling 120Hz VRR across all of the game's display modes. These performance improvements are showcased in a new comparison video shared by Rajman Gaming HD, which compares the game running with and without VRR enabled, using all of the game's display modes: Ray Tracing Pro, Balanced Ray Tracing Pro, Ray Tracing, Performance, Balanced, and Quality. The comparison makes it clear how a significant amount of performance was left on the table for the PS5 Pro specifically, with the frame rate being capped, as frame rates are higher across all display modes with VRR and an uncapped frame rate. And so essentially what we're looking at here is if you were playing Ghost of Yotei in the Ray Tracing Pro mode, if you had VRR off with the capped frame rate, you would be sitting at 40 FPS. But on the Ray Tracing Pro mode now, with it, again, VRR turned on and the uncapped frame rate, you're going to get an average of 60 FPS. But in the performance mode, it can actually go up to 95 FPS, although I'm not sure. I want to bring up the video here so we can check it out. I think this will be the easiest way. Let me move this over here. Is anybody playing the New Game Plus update, by the way? Because that's something I want to do very soon. I was happy to see. I checked the trophies. You don't have to get a trophy for the most difficult difficulty option, the hardest one. That was nice to see. I was afraid that they were going to make you do that to get that 100%. Oh, my screen caps are all messed up too. Hold on. Sorry, guys. We're just going to have to do this on the fly. Where are we at? So there's that. There's that. Let me exit that. Sorry. Bear with me. That's what happens when you convert your stuff to 4K. All right, let's see. It's not working for some reason. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. We are going to check out this video. We're going to get a pretty good idea of what's going on with the performance boost. So let's So, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty big difference in motion. I mean, as they were riding the horse, it was going like what, average 75, 76. But I mean, in some instances, going up to 96 FPS. Again, this is in the ray tracing pro mode, man. Which, you know, when you talk about Ghost of Yotei, I think the ray tracing pro mode is by far the most impressive aspect of this game, visually speaking, and also performance wise. I mean, earlier this year we played Death Stranding 2 on the PS5 Pro, and it's like one of the best looking games. But then Yotei comes out. So obviously this is a, you know, not in motion, but not bad. Average between 75 and 80. I'd say that's pretty good. That's pretty good, you know, considering it's like, again, if you look at the pro mode and how visually impressive it is, get pro'd on the PlayStation 5 Professional. Raven says when the right developers are experienced and they're especially good with tech, they're going to do good things with the PS5 Pro. That's true. Yeah, like I'm playing Dying Light the Beast right now, and it's a good-looking game, but again, it's a game that doesn't take advantage of the PS5 Pro at all, and it shows. It's not necessarily diminishing my experience, but as I'm playing it, I'm like, yeah, this it would be better, you know, when I'm playing Dying Light the Beast if there was a Pro enhancement, if the resolution was higher, crisper, if they used PSSR or something, you know. The frame rate's good. They do have a performance mode, but Alvin, you're saying the ray tracing pro mode was basically already perfect. Josh says I'm averaging like 80 to 91 FPS on ray tracing pro. I love the pro. I mean, it's nice to get these updates. The only thing I saw some people complaining about, which I think is fair, is they were like, you know, it's a shame that it took this long for Sucker Punch to put this update out, something like VRR and being able to uncap the frame rate, because for a lot of people, they already beat the game. But it is worth noting that with this update, they did introduce New Game Plus. So, you know, if you're looking for an excuse to replay it, that's a pretty good one. And again, if you're playing on the Pro, you'll be able to take advantage of this. But we'll watch a little bit more of it, see what else is going on here. Wait, hold on. You're telling me, D-Block Kid, you're saying Dying Light the Beast is Pro enhanced? It is? Really? I wasn't aware of this. Because when I guess I didn't see the PS5 Pro enhanced symbol. And when I went to check the different modes, there was just fidelity and performance. I wonder what the enhancement is then. It must not be PSSR, because I'm pretty sure the resolution is like 1080p. On the PlayStation Store, it says it's PS5 Pro enhanced. Okay, I'll have to look deeper into that. I get maybe like a higher frame rate. Maybe the frame rate's going beyond 60. My bad. I thought it wasn't. So I feel like this is looking pretty good, man. I mean, you're getting a full 20 FPS boost here in the balanced ray tracing mode. if you have VRR on. Now, you obviously have to have a 120 hertz display, but that's a pretty significant boost, man. How is Dying Light Beast? That's the next game you're planning on playing. So far, I would say it's okay. I'm not saying good. It has potential to be good to me. I played the original Dying Light, and it took me a little bit to get adjusted to, and then it was like, yes, this is a very good game. I'm just noticing I'm having the same struggle with Dying Light the Beast that I had with the original Dying Light, which is it's going to take me a little bit to get settled in. You know, I'm struggling with the game a little bit, not in like a significant way, but just I'm trying to get used to the flow of it, the feel of, you know, the melee combat, and you know, the parkour and the traversal. But yeah, I'm about, I think, like 5 or 6 hours into it so far, so I am not very deep into the game. But I'm just in that kind of phase where I'm starting to get the feel for it. I'm trying to get the flow going for Dying Light the Beast. But yeah, pretty good overall. And it's cool because it's co-op. I had just random people like dropping in and playing with me, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Some dude like dropped in and helped me with a boss battle, which was nice. And I appreciate that about Dying Light, the series in general, is they just have 4-player co-op. You can just play the entire game 4-player co-op. I appreciate that. I feel like more games should do that, you know? And it works well. But we'll watch a little bit more of this, and then we'll probably move on to the next topic. But I just want you guys to get a general idea of what we're looking at here. This is, again, from Rajman Gaming, I believe, who captured this. And people were asking about the base PS5. In this video, there was no testing done on the base PS5, so I don't know how much the base PS5 benefits from enabling VRR and uncapping the frame rate. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm looking at this, and I'm wondering if he is testing it on the base PS5. It just says PS5 Pro, but I'm just... Oh, okay, hold on. Well, no, there's a... So, like, here it says balanced mode, right? Balanced, which I'm assuming is on the PS5 Pro. Oh, okay, it was balanced ray tracing. Okay, so yeah, all of this was tested on the PS5 Pro. It was all tested on the PS5 Pro, my bad. I got confused for a second because we're like, wait, did he test it on the base PS5? Not bad, though. Not bad. Well, there we go. Just figured I'd show you guys that. If you're planning on playing New Game Plus, or if you haven't played Ghost of Yotei yet, but you have a PS5 Pro. All right, let me get this out of here. There we go. Boss, it's not time yet, bro. Come on. All right, let me head back over to the chat here. The ray tracing pro mode is like 60 to 90 FPS and still looks great though. Is a slight resolution bump really worth sacrificing 20 to 30 FPS? I think for most people, probably not. I'm going to say probably not. Josh, you're saying if you got a pro, you need ray tracing pro with VRR. All these other modes are null on the pro. I mean, I do agree with that, Josh. I feel as though the ray tracing pro mode, there's really no reason not to go for that one because, again, like it's achieving frame rates in some instances of up to 90 to 95. Most times it's running between 75 and 80. So you might not notice it that much. But again, you're getting the higher resolution thanks to PSSR. You're getting a higher frame rate, and you are getting some ray tracing in there as well. You know, I feel like that's just the best overall package. But yeah, if you're really somebody who just like you want the highest possible frame rate, I think you want to just stick with the performance mode if that's what matters most to you. For sure. Really, you're saying you have a PS5 Pro, but this game looks mid. You don't get the hype. I'm surprised by that. Genuinely, I'm surprised by that. I really feel like Ghost of Yotei is one of the better looking games to release on the, just in general, but certainly on the Pro. But, you know, to each their own, I guess. MBG, the PS5 Pro is so impressive. I'm crying. I'm crying tears of joy. That's funny. Thank you. You're saying Boss is the best cat in existence. I appreciate that. I'm sure he appreciates it as well. He can be a bit much sometimes. He can be a bit much. But usually he's the best cat. We are going to move on to the next topic, though, guys. I didn't want to spend too much time on that because we've been talking a lot about Ghost of Yotei. And again, I feel like this particular update, it really depends on if you have a PS5 Pro. It also depends on if you have a 120 hertz TV. But if you do, you're going to have some performance boosts and some performance gains that I think will be certainly welcome. Luckspace, you're saying Ghost looks amazing on the Pro, ray tracing, etc. Check your TV. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Maybe that is why it doesn't look good for that person. You do have to sometimes be aware of that. If your TV settings are not where they should be, it can have a dramatic impact in a negative way. Doesn't Hideo Kojima own the Death Stranding IP? He's probably like, I need more sales. Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that next. So we have, it's not a report, it's not a rumor, it's not a leak, it's official. Death Stranding 2 has been rated by the ESRB. And usually when a game gets rated, it means an announcement and release is imminent. And so the thing that's really worth pointing out here, I think, well, there's like two things that are worth pointing out. Number one is this rating reveals that Sony is going to be the one publishing Death Stranding 2 on PC. The reason why this is potentially significant is because Death Stranding 1, as we know, made its way to PC after a certain amount of time, and it was not Sony who published it for some reason. I don't know why. My only guess is the agreement was made with 505 Games to publish Death Stranding 1 on PC prior to Sony basically deciding, okay, we're going to start releasing some of our games on PC. That's my only assumption, because it was always weird to me that Sony didn't publish Death Stranding 1 on PC, even though they started releasing games like Days Gone and Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. So, yes, the ESRB rating is out for Death Stranding 2 on the beach. It's being published by Sony, and all we have to really do now is try to figure out when the announcement is happening and when it's going to release. Well, I'm going to say the timing of this, we're probably going to see this announced at the Game Awards. We know that Hideo Kojima and Jeff Keighley are good friends, and I feel like Jeff Keighley wants any excuse he can get to bring Kojima on stage or you know, have some kind of announcement from Kojima Productions. So Death Stranding 2 being announced for PC, I'm not saying lock it in at the Game Awards. I'm just saying as of right now, that seems like the most likely place where it will be announced. Now, the second thing that I think is worth pointing out here is how quickly Death Stranding 2 is coming to PC. A lot of people are going to pay attention to this because it's basically been, well, we don't have the release date yet, but let's say it comes out in January or February of next year. That'd be about 6 months. So that's like a 6-month window. And prior to that, we're looking at Spider-Man 2 being the fastest, like, from, releasing on console, going from console to PC, about a year and 3 months, like, 15 months basically. So this will by far be like the shortest window of time for a single player Sony published game that is like, okay, we're launching it at the end of June. We'll just say July for all intents and purposes, right? We'll just say July 1st, and then we're going to maybe release it like February 1st or something like that, or the end of January. That's about 6 months. And so we can basically look at that and infer that there was like a 6-month window. Now, I do wonder if maybe it could have been less than that, where it could have been maybe like a 3-month window, only because, I mean, the PC version it's coming so soon. You would maybe assume that they didn't need that much time, Kojima Productions that is, to get this game ready for PC. Early 90s gamer, you're saying it keeps shrinking. Yeah, well, again, we were covering some news recently that, turned out to not be true. The person who said it walked it back and said, I'm not a good PlayStation source, and basically just, kind of nullified that. But, it was being reported that Sony was maybe walking back their PC releases for single-player games. And so what we're seeing now is the complete opposite of that. Death Stranding 2 is one of the only major single-player games that Sony released this generation. Yeah, we were just talking about this yesterday. And we were talking about Bungie as well yesterday. And then this news comes out. Very strange how that works. But yeah, a lot of people, I think, are going to be a little bit surprised. If not surprised, maybe just happy. Some people maybe not so happy, but I guess it depends on who you ask. But generally speaking, people are going to be focused on the fact that this is the fastest, release on console to go to PC. And, could we be looking at a strange situation where this game is, it's being rated and then it's actually not going to get announced till like 6 months later? I mean, maybe, but that's not common. That doesn't really happen. When you see a game get rated, that's usually an indication that it's going to be revealed very soon or announced very soon. Didn't you say in your video it was a different company working on the PC port? So, no, what I said in my video was that 505 Games published the original Death Stranding on PC. And this time, 505 Games is not involved. Sony is publishing it themselves. So, if you guys recall, when I was talking about Death Stranding 2 leading up to its launch, I was saying that I think Sony should test out a day-and-date PC launch with a game like Death Stranding 2. I was saying I feel like Death Stranding 2 is the perfect candidate, where if Sony really wants to get some answers, this is the game. And I said that because, well, I mean, when you look at a game like Death Stranding 2, I don't know what its sales numbers are. I don't know what its sales look like. I do believe this is a game that needs a bit of a boost. Truthfully, I think it's a game that needs any help it can get, not because it's a bad game, it's the opposite. Death Stranding 2 is an incredible game, but it's a sequel to a game that was already somewhat divisive, right? And so I think it will really benefit the game, frankly, to go to PC as soon as possible. I'm not sure how many people are going out there and buying PlayStation 5 consoles right now, specifically for Death Stranding 2. Michael, what's going on, man? Michael says, get those likes up. He's demanding you guys to get the likes up. Yeah, guys, make sure you hit that like button. We're at 48. 2 more gets us to 50. Thank you for that. 1 to 2 million, probably. Yeah, I would assume that Death Stranding 2 is not selling that great. I'm saying this only because Death Stranding 1 didn't really do like massive numbers out of the gate. I think Death Stranding 1 in its lifetime sold 5, maybe 6 million copies on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. But we also have to remember that Death Stranding 1 launched onto PS4 in 2019. I believe it was November 2019. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the PS4 was at 100 million units sold at that point, or very, very close to it. So there was a larger install base as well. And it was also, like I said, a very divisive game. I thought it was an amazing game. I love Death Stranding 1, but it took quite a while to go to PC. So Death Stranding 2 launching to a smaller install base, again, it being a sequel, I think these things combined, I don't know that Death Stranding 2 is the biggest system seller. I don't think it's doing massive numbers. I don't know that it's a flop. You know, people were to say, like, did Death Stranding 2 flop? Probably not. I'm sure Sony had a certain level of expectation, but Lady Gamer, we're going to be talking about that soon. The Destiny situation. Yeah, we'll be going over that soon. Imagine if it shadow dropped at the Game Awards. That would be pretty cool, actually, to see a shadow drop. And actually, yeah, I mean, maybe they could do that. That would, because I was thinking to myself, like, would a PC announcement of Death Stranding 2 at the Game Awards really be that significant if it's, like, coming out early next year? I mean, maybe, but also maybe not. However, if you're going to announce Death Stranding 2 for PC and you're like, actually, we're just going to shadow drop it, that would be a pretty good thing, I would say. Like, I think that would add an extra layer of excitement for it, where people can be like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy that right now. And you know, I'm happy to see it go to PC, because, like I said, I would have liked to see this game drop day. And this is why I wonder, like, if you're going to do a window of like 6 months, I mean, I'm just genuinely going to ask, like, what is even the point? The only thing I can figure is the PC version just isn't ready. Like, we need that extra 6 months to get it ready. You know, we don't want to delay the PS5 version for another 6 months if the PS5 version's ready to go. But when you're talking about a window of like 6 months, I mean, yeah, you would just think, like, maybe just doing day and date at that point would be the way to go, because I don't know how many people, you know, again, are going out there and buying PlayStations for Death Stranding 2. I'm one of those people that would have. Death Stranding 1 was a game that definitely won me over to the PS4 side of things. But I also want to point out that this, I do believe, is going to continue to send a signal, a message, I should say, that Sony has been sending continuously throughout this generation. Sony has been continuously sending the message that we are bringing our games to PC. We're not going to tell you when. We're not going to give you timelines. You know, we're not going to make it super predictable. Again, some games are going to be 4 years later. Others are going to be a year later. And so I do feel like when you look at something like Death Stranding 2, and then you look at Spider-Man 2, I'm looking at these two games specifically because it's like, okay, well, last year, Spider-Man 2 launched, or maybe it was this year, actually. Was it this year? I think it was this year. January of this year, Spider-Man 2 launched on PC 15 months after it launched on PS5. People noticed that, and they're like, okay, well, that's basically like a year. Now, we're seeing their next game, their next tentpole title, Death Stranding 2. Now it's going to be, presumably, and I am presuming here, 6 months. So people are going to pay attention to that, and you're like, oh, okay, so you went from 12 to 15 months to now 5 to 6 months, 6 to 7 months. They're seeing that gap close. And so it's natural that people are going to begin to speculate, well, you know, like, does this mean we can expect potentially something like Soros or perhaps Wolverine to be a day-and-date launch on PS5 and PC? And you can't blame people when we're seeing this happen for speculating that, or even beginning to assume that that's going to happen. But I'm not entirely sure, only because I do think when we look at something like Death Stranding 2, we do have to keep in mind that it's true. Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions, they own the Death Stranding IP now. There was a transferring of the IP not that long ago. And I just get this feeling that there might be a different type of contractual agreement that maybe wouldn't necessarily be there for something like, say, Ghost of Yotei. Now, that's not me saying don't read into this. I think you should read into this. But I also just think you should keep in mind that Kojima Productions, no matter which way you slice it, the fact of the matter is they are not owned by Sony. They are not a first-party PlayStation studio. XDev, a first-party PlayStation studio, worked with them, and Sony published the game. They funded the game. They don't own the IP. You factor all these different things in, but I think at the end of the day, if we're just being like, if we're just going to use common sense, I would say that Sony, as well as obviously Kojima Productions, they just want to see this game get as many sales as it can. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry about that. Luna was causing problems. Yeah, we covered that. The 5 games coming to PlayStation Plus Essential in December. But yeah, I do think that there's a chance, possibly a good chance, that Death Stranding 2 sales have pretty much stopped on PlayStation, or not stopped, but slowed down considerably. Where, I feel like this is a game where it's going to get its big pop within the first month or 2, possibly 3. I don't know that Death Stranding 2 is a game that's going to have really long legs. It might. But I think at this point in time, it's like, yeah, putting it on PC I don't think is going to hurt anything. I think it can only help. But let me see here. You're saying day and date is coming. I mean, if this is true, yeah, I would look to maybe Herman Hulst or Hideaki Nishino. I'm assuming it would be Herman Hulst that would talk about it, but I would look to them for, it's like, okay, so what's what's the plan now? Like, has anything changed? Like, I think what Sony would probably need to communicate next is whether or not they're still going with this whole idea of we're going to pick and choose and we're going to do different time frames. Because I could tell you, if Death Stranding launches next month on PC, or if it launches, say, January of next year, people are going to look at that and say, okay, well, I guess we can now expect, for example, Saros, the next game coming out from Sony, or not even Saros, we'll just go with Ghost of Yotei. Ghost of Yotei comes out in October. Maybe it'll come out March or April for PC. People are going to start thinking that. They're already thinking that way. And that may or may not be true. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's what Sony wants to do. I don't know if that's going to be a situation where it's like, well, we would, but the game's not ready. Yeah, take him too. Take him too. I am. Go. She doesn't like when you do that. Sorry, boss. I had to get. He's like scratching me, dude. He's getting feisty because I'm not giving him his treats. He's getting feisty, man. Sorry, these cats are causing all kinds of chaos. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with these cats because they are just like they're like tearing up my carpet, tearing up the door. It's just like, bro, I'm just trying to talk. Like, I'm just trying to talk about Death Stranding 2, man. Muted? I don't think I'm muted. No, I'm good. But let me see here. We have did I say that? I don't know if I said that, Inferno. You're saying in the words of MBG, if day and date happens, that's the final domino to fall. The only time I recall using the domino reference was for Halo. But people were saying they would stop porting to PC. Well, again, there was reporting going around that, again, it was clarified that that's not the case. How I will say, though, when we look back at, like, let's not talk about the rumors or the rumor mill. Let's look at Sony's own corporate report. During their corporate report this year, they did not list PC games. They did not list multi-platform games. They did not put a focus on it. Instead, they put a focus on the PS5 and PS5 sales. And we also know that they said 1.5 billion, or 2%, I should say. I don't know if it's actually 1.5 billion, but 2% of their overall gaming revenue came from multi-platform. And people were quite surprised because they're like, that's a really low amount. Like, only 2%. Okay. However, when we walked away from that, we were walking away assuming one of two things to be true. And it was really dependent upon who you asked. Number one, well, I guess they're kind of done with the multi-platform stuff, right? Because they're not talking about it anymore. They didn't mention it in their corporate report. They didn't put it as a key pillar of their business. So I guess they're done with it. It was either that or the complete opposite of that, where now it's baked in. They're not emphasizing it, and they're not highlighting it in bold letters because now it's just assumed that that's how it will be. And seeing this coming out, you know, the rating for Death Stranding 2, it naturally leads me to believe that, okay, I was assuming it was the other way, where maybe they are starting to pull back on it. Maybe they are starting to be like, you know what, let's chill out a little bit. But then we see, okay, Death Stranding 2 is getting rated for PC. It's going to be out possibly within 6 months. Yeah, I think, and especially when you consider things like Marathon coming up that are going to be full multi-platform. And I guess maybe for some people are like, well, duh, this would be common sense because they put Helldivers 2 on Xbox. So between that and Lego Horizon, it's like maybe from the start it should have been assumed that this was going to be baked in. Nicodemus, you're saying it's ignorant to think Sony is backing away from PC when PC gaming is booming and is the future we are all headed for. PC gamers are just ahead of the curve. Interesting. Well, we did hear what Strauss Zelnick said recently, right? He said that he believes that's the direction we're going in. But it's so ironic because it's like then GTA 6 is like a console only game, at least for like a year or something. Strange how that strange comments, but we got 2 first-party PC ports this year. It's too early to make this call. Well, if Death Stranding launches on PC if it launches before the end of the year, then that would be 3. I don't know. Maybe Sony will just continue to do what they've been doing, like I said. Maybe they'll just continue to pick and choose. The only question that Sony needs answered, and this is why I said they should have put Death Stranding 2 day one on PC if they were able to. The only question that Sony needs answered is how this will impact their console sales. Because, frankly, it doesn't matter what I say or what I think, and it doesn't matter what you say or what you think, right? The only thing that's actually going to matter is the result that's there through the experimentation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. We could try our best to predict and infer, but at the end of the day, we're not going to know how impacted PS5 sales would be if they chose to do that. Only Sony will be able to find that out through the data that they get back after doing it, after pulling the trigger on that. Schmidt GT, you're saying maybe they want to try to increase the 2% by releasing earlier / day and date when they can. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a possibility as well, right? People were pointing out, they're like, listen, 2% may be a very small amount of the overall pie, right? If Sony makes however many billions of dollars and only 2% of that comes from multi-platform, maybe it makes more sense for them to try to raise it to 3%. and then raise it to 4%, and then raise it to 5%. And I did talk about that as well. I talked about how there's certainly a possibility, considering they are a bottom line business that's looking to increase profitability, increase revenue and profitability. Maybe it does make more sense overall to assume that they're going to be like, oh, that's 2%, let's increase it to 5%. But I think the only thing, again, that we don't know, and Sony doesn't know either, is whether or not if they try to increase that 2% to 4%, from 4% to 6%, so on and so forth, will that come at the expense of another portion of the pie? Or is it just growing the pie overall? And to be fair, if you look at what Sony has been doing up till this point, you could not blame them for assuming it's just going to grow the pie overall. I say this because, well, Hiroki Totoki said, I believe last year that, and they were asked directly by a shareholder, like, do you believe that you releasing your games on PC is like cannibalizing PS5 sales? And he responded by saying something along the lines of, no, we haven't observed that. Basically like, no, everything's fine. So, if that's the position Sony's coming from, it does make some level of sense that they're going to be like, well, let's keep, again, pushing the envelope. But there is still an inherent risk there where if the console sale is the most important thing to Sony, because that's what gets them in, that's what gets people into their ecosystem, then they do have to be aware of the reality that, well, you can't truly predict this. And so therefore, if you make a decision in the future that has some kind of negative ripple effect for your console sales, you might not be able to undo that. But when you look around at whatever, at everybody else and what's going on, Sony might be like, oh, I think we'll be okay. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. It's Luna. She's so frustrating. Let's see. But Schmidt, yeah, getting back to your super chat, that absolutely could be what it is. The only thing I'm kind of still a little bit unsure of is how much I should read into that, how much anybody should read into this. I say this only because it is Death Stranding 2. Again, it's an IP and a studio that Sony doesn't own. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't know if Sony internally is like, we are, like, just because we're doing this with Death Stranding 2 doesn't mean we're doing this with Ghost of Yotei.
I'm real disappointed in the Steam Machine specs and price news, man. I was really hoping it was going to enter the console race as a real competitor. Disappointed face emoji.
Hold on, Moonshot. Yeah, Moonshot, aka Josh, thank you for the direct donation. Yeah, I've been seeing a bit of that as well, right? I've been seeing some people expressing a certain level of disappointment in the fact that, Valve is just being upfront and saying, like, yeah, we're not subsidizing this box, which I don't think that's the surprising part, but just generally speaking, the surprising part being that this thing may end up being, like, much more expensive than people would have initially thought. I think people were looking at it maybe $500, maybe $600, but the more high level speculation at this point is beginning to say, like, no, it's going to be beyond 700, more than likely. And yeah, this is why when we talk about the next generation with the PlayStation 6 and even the PlayStation 6 handheld, I just can't help but wonder, like, if it's going to be a somewhat similar situation, because if you have something like the Steam Machine that's going to be priced at like $700 or more, even though something like the PS5 Pro is about the same price but significantly more capable and powerful. I I don't know. These are kind of confusing times. I'm not really sure what's going on these days, you know? But yeah, the idea of it coming in as a real console competitor, I guess it was maybe short-sighted of me to assume that that's what Valve was going to do, because it's like, well, has Valve ever done that? You know? Have they ever done that before? Have they ever shown signs that they want to compete in the console space? I mean, maybe with the Steam machines originally, but even then it was like, you didn't, at least I didn't get that vibe. MBG, these are the prospects of gaming that will always stay in the future phase, as in won't happen, and they are Sony PC day and date, cloud gaming, console gaming dying. The only one I don't agree with here, Tarnish, is potentially Sony PC day and date. I say this only because, like, I could see Sony getting to a point where they're like, we are convinced this will not hurt our console sales. And maybe they're right. Maybe they are right. I mean, that's the thing that I think some PlayStation players need to kind of think about, right? Is I feel like you can only really be worried about Sony's exclusivity for one of two reasons. One, you're worried about how this could negatively impact the health of the console ecosystem that they built and that you've invested into. Or two, because you have this mentality that, well, I'm supposed to be treated special. That's why I invested into this. And you're giving games that were supposed to be like ours to them as well. And I'm going to say, like, one of those I think is potentially flawed. The other I think is somewhat understandable. The one that I believe is kind of flawed is the idea of, like, well, you know, you shouldn't give them games. You shouldn't, you know, give our games or your games, Sony, to anybody else because, well, this is the whole reason I'm here. I don't think that's flawed if it's true, right? If it's true that this is the only reason I bought a PlayStation. But what I've observed is that most people who have that mentality, most people who only bought a PlayStation for an exclusive or for exclusive games, they're relieved at the idea of Sony embracing PC, possibly day and date. That's what I've observed. They say, "Oh, good, I don't have to buy this PlayStation anymore. I can go play this on PC." Does that hurt Sony? Maybe a little bit. Sure. But if Sony's making that decision, knowing that some people are going to walk away now and stick to PC like they originally wanted to, Sony calculated that. Sony said, okay, yeah, that's a risk we're willing to take. We're okay with that. We're okay with you walking away and going to PC. And so, there's the other side of it where it's like, well, again, the hardcore PlayStation fanboy that's like, well, no, like, this is what Sony's always done. Generation 1, 2, 3, 4, this is how Sony's always done it. And that exists too. But I think the only angle here that to me makes sense is if you are worried about the overall health of the console ecosystem. And I think it would be disingenuous for people to say that you shouldn't worry about that, because I feel like, well, we have seen in the past, and we are witnessing right now, to a degree, what happens when the console ecosystem kind of falls apart. It's not good. It can have a deleterious effect on the entire community that has invested in a specific platform, in a specific console. And so it could get kind of weird, I mean, I don't know that it will be as dramatic as what we saw in the past with like a Sega, but it can get kind of weird. It can get kind of concerning. MBG, no offense, but didn't you get PlayStation 4 exclusives? I did. And you know what Sony could leverage against me at this point? That it's like, well, you got me. What Sony could say is, yeah, we won you over with exclusives 6 or 7 years ago, but that was 6 or 7 years ago. we're going to do something different now. Are you going to leave? My instinctive answer to that would be probably not. But my answer would be that because it's like I'm set up here. Like this is, I did invest into the ecosystem. Like you convinced me to invest into the ecosystem. I did. And I'm pretty happy with it. And so it's like, okay, well, we're going to take the thing that we used to bring you in and let you get settled in. We're going to take that and we're going to take that to other places. You can understand how it's like risky inherently because it's like, so are you going to leave or what? But I'm just one example of a person where it's like, no, I'm good. You convinced me to come check your stuff out through exclusivity. But I stayed basically for everything else. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, you know what? I kind of do like the whole package. And so if that's kind of reversed where it's like, okay, well, now your main reason for staying isn't exclusivity, it's everything else. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think what I'm describing applies to most PlayStation players, to most people who bought a PlayStation console. Are there people who it doesn't apply to? Absolutely. Are there people that if Sony goes day and date on PC, they're like, I'm out? Absolutely. Is that number 1 million players? Is that number 5 million players? Is that number 20 million players? I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that if Sony does go in the direction of we're going day and date, it's finally happening, we're embracing it, they're going to be paying very close attention to what happens next. And if I had to hedge a bet, I would say it'll be fine. Truly. Like, I would say it'll probably be fine. The only real thing that I think Sony would actually have to worry about, truthfully, although with the way prices are rising in the PC space, maybe they don't have to worry as much as I'm making it sound, but just something they would probably want to be aware of. And again, paying close attention to is, well, maybe you won't leave now because you already bought a PS5 or you already bought a PS5 Pro. But if we make this transition at the end of this generation where, yeah, we're going day and date on PC, all of our games are going to drop day one over there. I think Sony is taking a little bit of a risk where, okay, they might stay till the end of this gen, but once you start up next gen with the PlayStation 6, that's when they're going to leave. That's when they're like, okay, well, I got my money's worth out of the PS5. Now that I know I don't need a PS6 and I can actually go over to PC, okay, yeah, peace. However, we also don't know what Sony's plans are for like a launcher. We've talked about that. Does them not announcing, but does this Death Stranding 2 PC rating, does this seem to hint that we're closer to a launcher? Not necessarily. I don't think so. When it comes to the PC launcher, truthfully, we haven't heard about this thing in a long time. The last thing we heard was, I think it was through like a job listing that Sony was hiring for people to work on it. Could have been canceled, could have been scrapped. We don't know. We haven't had really anything significant to go off of in recent memory. But there is this kind of assumption that if Sony wants to continue to embrace PC in a meaningful way, they're probably going to want to have their own launcher. The only real question in regards to how that would shake things up or not shake things up is whether or not they're going to continue to release on Steam. I'm of the mindset that if Sony were to make a PC launcher, and if they were to attempt to do what other publishers have done in the past, where we're not putting our games on Steam. We will put our games on PC, but we are not putting them on Steam. I think that's going to blow up in their face. And I don't see a point to that. I think we've been down this road enough times with enough publishers and enough launchers to know that that's not going to work. And it's just a lost cause to even attempt it. It's a waste of time. Detective C's posted a new PC port job listing, MBG. Interesting. Yeah, I do think that Sony, again, even though I have speculated time and time again recently, because of their annual corporate report, that maybe they would pull back. Maybe they are. What does Hideaki Nishino think? What's his philosophy? Even though I've speculated these things, when I look at it from a more like bird's eye view, I also acknowledge the fact that, well, Sony, you've been doing this for the past 6 years. And you're okay. like everything you've done so far, you're okay. I don't know why they would suddenly want to undo that right now. Unless there's something they know that we don't, which is a possibility as well. We've talked about Xbox Magnus. We've talked about how people are already expressing their excitement for, I can't wait to get Xbox Magnus or the Steam machine for that matter, because I'll have access to everything now that I know Sony is supporting PC. And so you can see the message. That's the message that I was talking about. This is the message that Sony has sent everybody, the collective gaming industry. The message is, hey, we are supporting PC. You can expect us there. We are supporting Steam. You can expect us there. That's the message that's been sent loud and clear. And even though there is a technicality here, what is that technicality? The technicality is, well, actually, you might have to wait a year or two, maybe 3 years. That no longer matters. That's the thing that's been fascinating for me to observe. Is I thought that would matter. It actually doesn't. Not nearly as much as I thought. I say this because, generally speaking, every time I run into somebody who talks about playing on PC, they talk about PlayStation as if they, like, not as if, because they actually are. They talk about PlayStation as if they already went day and date on PC. And, like, we both know they didn't yet. But that's where I'm saying, if I were to, like, bring up, well, Ghost of Yotei isn't on PC. So what about that? They will simply respond by saying, yeah, but it will be. And they're right. They, like, based off of everything Sony has done, it's like, you're 100% right. And so the follow-up question that I would ask is, well, do you care if it might take 3 years? The answer from them is no. I'll play it when it comes. Doesn't matter if it's 6 months. Doesn't matter if it's 3 years. Ghost of Tsushima is kind of proof of that. That game came 4 years later, and it peaked at 77,000 concurrents. And so there's this kind of realization when engaging with these different individuals across different platforms and kind of mapping these things out. There's this kind of realization that I don't really know that it matters anymore. And what I'm referring to is the time gap. I don't know that it matters. Like, when I look at Spider-Man 2 and it peaked at 28,000 concurrent players on Steam, and it came out 15 months later, again, that's the shortest gap we've ever seen so far. And then I think about, okay, well, what could it have done if it launched the same day as it did on PS5? Like, what would that differ? I mean, are we looking at a jump from, it would have went from 28,000 concurrents to over 100,000, 120,000, 150,000 concurrents. Are we looking at that type of leap? Or are we looking at something more akin to, you would have got to like 38,000 to 40,000, which is nice, but pretty modest. I don't have the answer to that, nor does Sony. And the only way Sony will find out the answer to that question in regards to their single-player games, the answer's already there for live service. The answer is live service games dropping day one on PC and Steam can be the biggest difference maker, as we've seen with Helldivers 2. When it comes to their single-player games, we don't know yet. And that's why I would have loved to have seen Death Stranding 2 launch on PC day one. You think it's not worth the risk, Tarnished? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's actually worth the risk or not, because I mean, look, man, I just think Sony is probably prepared to go day and date the more I think about it, because, and maybe this, I'm kind of like flip-flopping on what I said previously, but I'm really thinking about this now, and it's like, okay, well, the PlayStation 6 is coming in 2 years. One thing we can, I don't want to, I don't know if people are going to disagree with this, but I'm fairly certain this is a safe assumption. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I feel very confident in what I'm about to say. There's not going to be any PS6 exclusives. And if there is, it might be like one game. Like, here's a Blue Point remake again, and it's a PS6 exclusive. Like a God of War 1 remake, PS6 exclusive, which, don't get me wrong, that would matter to me, and that would matter to a lot of PlayStation fans. But I don't think it's going to be like, okay, so here's Spider-Man 3 and The Last of Us Part 3 and a new IP from Santa Monica, and they're all PS6 exclusive. I think it's safe to say all these games are going to be cross-gen with PS5. And I think when you consider that, you look at where they are right now with PC, and you also factor in, we don't know the pricing of the PS6. I think when you look at all those things from that bird's eye view, you could maybe begin to infer that Sony is sitting there with their finger on the trigger.
I get it first, I'm good.
You know?
If it ever happens day and date, I'm not gonna cry cause PlayStation is the best to be in gaming.
Capcom lawyer, I'm gonna read that super chat. I'm just a little put off by Michael Werniff dropping a super sticker that I've never seen before. Is that supposed to be a gamepad, like a controller, like an older one? Rage quit. A $20 super sticker saying rage quit. Uh-oh. Michael, thank you so much. I don't think I've ever gotten a $20 super sticker before. I think I've got like $10 super stickers. Are there $50 super stickers? You don't have to drop $50. I've never looked into the super stickers. They always fascinate me because I'm like, what are these things? Why are they here? And why do they look like that? Oh, man. And before I read Capcom's super chat, Perfect Image said with a $2 direct donation, MBG for me, as long as I get it first, I'm good. If it ever happens day and date, I'm not going to cry because PlayStation is the best in gaming. So in other words, Perfect Image, you're saying you play PlayStation because you like PlayStation. How dare you? How dare you, Perfect Image? No, I'm just kidding. No, I think most people feel that way. I think most people feel that exact way. And we have formerly Capcom lawyer. He says, I know it's not in mind of any platform's fanboys, but lots of people buy multiple systems, as in PC and PlayStation, or PC and Switch. PC players who wanted to play Spider-Man 2 played it at launch on their PlayStation. And that's true, too. You're absolutely right, Capcom lawyer. This is where I think we've collectively hit the ceiling, except for Nintendo. And I think that might be because Nintendo jumped out the window a long time ago and decided they were going to build a plane in midair. And they did. That's the analogy I'm going with. I think I think everybody collectively hit the ceiling except Nintendo. And I think like what you're saying here, Capcom lawyer, it kind of highlights that a little bit. You know? The fact that people are used to buying different systems, but I think even if you're used to buying different systems, people I think have kind of, everybody has their like go-to, their main driver, their main platform that they've chosen to invest in. And this is where I just feel like I just don't think Sony's going to win the battle, just like I don't think Valve will win the battle, and Valve seems to have zero interest in trying. Like, when we talked about the idea of the Steam machine being a viable, true competitor to the PlayStation 5, it basically is saying, like, Valve is going to try to steal PlayStation players. And then when you kind of talk about it in that way, you begin to realize how silly that sounds, because it's like, what do you mean? No, Valve's not going to do that. Valve's not going to try to do that ever. They've never done that. That's not how they operate. That's not how they're going to operate. Valve's just going to do what they do and say, if you like it, come over, you know? If not, that's cool. We don't really care. And there's something to be said about that. A lot of people have a lot to say about that. But with that understanding, I think it goes the other direction as well. Potentially. Where Sony, I think, is at the mercy of this ceiling that we've hit. And I'll explain what I mean in a second. We have a super chat from MVP Moss. Says, have you played Arc Raiders, or do you have any interest? I did play the beta for Arc Raiders, and Gaming Survivor, you better chill out, son. You better chill out, son. I'm going to come in there. I'm going to come in that chat. Bro thinks he's the law. Sorry, MVP Moss. I did play the beta for a little while for Arc Raiders, and I just couldn't get into it. I feel really weird about it because I'm seeing it blow up, and I'm seeing how much people love it. And I just couldn't, it wasn't clicking. I'm like, there's a lot here that I can identify that this is a high quality game that will probably do well, certainly doing better than I expected. But I just wasn't feeling the gameplay loop. I wasn't in the flow. It wasn't clicking with me. So yeah, I don't really have any intention of going back and playing it, to be honest. I'm not sure if extraction shooters are for me. I'm not sure. I will try Marathon when that comes out, or hopefully when there's a public beta. If I didn't like Arc Raiders, I'm suspecting that I probably won't like Marathon. So hopefully that answers your question, MVP Mawson. Thank you for the super chat. By the way, guys, make sure you are hitting that like button. We are sitting at 71 likes. Let's see if we can bump that up to 75, possibly get it to 100. I know that there's not a whole lot going on right now. This has been a very, very quiet week, especially for PlayStation news. So I'm just, I'm trying to go with what's out here. So make sure you hit that like button. It definitely helps. But when I say that I believe Sony may be at the mercy of hitting that ceiling, what I mean by that is Sony's whole thing is they want to keep growing, as we know. I'm not going to go down that whole rabbit hole of, the capitalistic drive, thanks to the, being a publicly traded company on the stock market, et cetera. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but you all know that Sony wants to continue to grow, but they want to do so aggressively. And that's the thing. Sony is very big in gaming. Like the PlayStation division is a absolute behemoth in gaming. Again, I want to remind people that for fiscal year 2024, Sony broke a record, an all-time record, where they made $31 billion in revenue. Now, obviously, profit is more important than revenue, but that's still a flex on their part, where it just goes to show how big they are, right? Where they're not a small company. The PlayStation brand is not a small brand, and they're not inconsequential. And so they want to keep going in that direction. They want to take it as far as they can possibly take it, and they certainly want to do it with a sense of urgency now that Microsoft has been making $80 billion investments in gaming to try to catch them. And that's why when you talk about like Nintendo, when you talk about Valve is not, they're not making as much money as PlayStation because they don't care about making as much money as PlayStation. They're not trying to catch PlayStation, nor are they trying to catch Microsoft or anybody. Nintendo is kind of in the same spot, except as a publicly traded company, which is kind of fascinating. Where would Nintendo like to, make as much revenue as PlayStation? Yes. Would they like to, catch them in that sense? Sure. But Nintendo's like, actually, we're okay. We're not going to make as much revenue, but we're going to make really good profit. And we have the brand recognition, so we're good. And that's where Sony is in this, I don't want to call it an awkward, maybe it is an awkward position. They're in a little bit of an awkward position because it's like, well, Sony, you've taken the console and that whole experience as far as you can take it. Truly, you have. You can continue it. Like, you can continue to be at that peak. But if you want to go any higher, you have to find different ways to do so. If you want to grow any further, you have to find different ways to do so. Valve probably have really good profits. They have less than 400 employees. Yeah, they probably do. I did see that report, by the way. Very interesting report. The only problem with this report is that, we can't know. We don't know how accurate it is because that's the thing about privately owned companies is they don't have to tell you anything. Everything's private. It's very different from a publicly traded company where they literally have to reveal these things to their shareholders. And anybody who's interested in, obtaining that information can do so, shareholder or not. Valve has the most profits per employee anywhere, apparently. Damn, dude. It must be nice being a Valve employee. Mrs. MBG can't even time out a mod. What kind of power do I have? Yeah, what's going on with YouTube? Can I time out a mod? I can. Gaming Survivor, you better watch out. I am the law. I am actually the law. Here, anyway. Valve makes almost $50 million per employee. You were off with that 10 million number a few days ago. Well, when it comes to PlayStation side of it here, PlayStation is in this awkward position where if they're going to be the ones to say we're going to continue to try to grow and climb higher, they're doing so kind of alone in a sense where they're basically reaching uncharted territory. So that means they have to release a new Uncharted. No, but they are. They're reaching uncharted territory where Microsoft hasn't made it this far. Nintendo hasn't really made it in this into this particular spot. Neither has Valve. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? And this is why I think you've seen Sony say we're going to put our games on Steam. Because what will that do? That will make it seem like we're going higher. It will we are growing. We're doing more. We're getting more sales. We're making more money. More profit per game. Sure. Okay, what else? We're going to make movies. We're going to do TV shows. This will help, right? I guess, yeah. Why not? We're going to do all this stuff for PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus Extra, PlayStation Plus Premium. We're going to go all in with that. We're going to do a PlayStation Portal. I mean, Sony's turned over every stone. That's why they're now going to do a proper handheld again, because that's one of the only stones they haven't turned over since the Vita days. After they turn over that stone, I think by that point it becomes kind of clear where it's like, okay, Sony, you're either going to settle down now, where you're just happy where you are, and you're just going to try to let it grow organically from here. Or you're not, and you're going to still be very aggressive and pursue horizontal growth, basically, where it's like if we can't go up, we could go sideways. We'll go further out. And considering right now, it seems like you're not going any higher. You can't. By the way, going higher in this instance means the next God of War selling 10 million more units, 5 million more units than the last God of War. Could that happen? Maybe, yeah. It's possible, but the likelihood, it's not probably that high. You're looking more at a situation, I think, where it's like the next God of War will probably sell similarly to Ragnarok and God of War 2018. Maybe a little bit more. But you're not going to see a jump from if those God of War games sold like 20 million, you're not going to see a jump to 30, 35 million. You're not going to see that. Sony knows this. Again, you're not going to see that on the PlayStation platform anyway. Okay, what about console sales? Are you going to see the PS5 go on to sell 140 million? Probably not. I would love it to. Sure, absolutely Sony would too. Probably not. And that's just the nature of the beast. That's because it's like, well, we have the data now. The data tells us the high watermark in the console gaming landscape is 160 million, and that's with the novelty of the DVD player. Even something like the Nintendo Switch, it's this close to catching the PS2, but it's still hit that ceiling. Where is the Nintendo Switch going to suddenly go and make 170, 180 million sales? Unless Nintendo comes out and is like, we're going to start selling them for like $50 a pop. Unless they do something like that, no. So, this is where I'm saying Sony's next moves are likely to be something along the lines of a PC launcher, something along the lines of let's look at what we did with the PlayStation Portal with PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, not Extra, but Premium. And here's I know it's not that big of a deal. I'm not trying to make it seem like it's that big of a deal, but it tells you something. It's another message, in this case being subtly sent by Sony, which is we are opening the door. Not the door. We opened a window. This is now a window we've opened where you have access to the PlayStation ecosystem without having to buy the console. You're still buying our products. You're still buying a handheld that we made. You're still subscribing to our subscription service, but you don't need a PS5. It's like cracking the window, not even opening it all the way. And I think that when you look at that, the message is, again, very subtly being sent that these are areas that we're paying attention to and looking into to potentially expand. And formerly Capcom lawyer with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. You're saying Steam had 75 million registered accounts in 2014. It somehow has over 1 billion in 2025. Is that because of China? Obviously, a lot of people are creating new ones. Accounts for farming. Well, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Steam colossal in China? Doesn't Steam kind of dwarf PlayStation in China? Yo, Gaming Survivor's having a meltdown in the chat. Maybe that could have something to do with it. Well, at what point does Steam... Or not Steam, sorry. At what point does Sony... Let me rephrase this question. How does Sony feel about Valve and Steam? Because I know how Sony feels about Nintendo. I know how Sony feels about Microsoft. I'm not sure. Like, my read on how Sony feels about Valve and Steam is not great because I have I feel like I'm getting mixed signals. But generally speaking, again, trying to view it at a high level, I don't think Sony sees Steam or Valve as a competitor. But I also am confused by that because PlayStation's dominance however you want to, view it, is facilitated through their own storefront, not other storefronts. And that's what confuses me. When it not confuses me, but it makes it difficult for me to determine what is Valve the wild card here? I think I used to think that was Nintendo, but I'm starting to think maybe Nintendo isn't the wild card. Nintendo's literally just the guy over there doing their own thing. They're playing their own song. They're marching to their own beat or whatever. It's PC. Why would they care? Valve is a mom and pop store compared to Sony as a company. They're younger than the PS1. Yeah, I kind of view it that way too. Or I guess I assume that's how Sony views it internally, and their willingness to put their games on Steam tells me that. But I guess yeah. My next kind of question is at what point does Sony become concerned that people are starting to really move over to Steam? At what point does Sony potentially start to lose customers to another storefront that is Steam, if that hasn't already been happening? I just feel like there's something I'm missing here. There's something I don't understand. Because I see, and I guess it's because I like Steam and Valve are the ones I paid the least amount of attention to, but I see people talk about Steam and Valve they're, for example, I came across this video that I would like to react to in a members lounge at some point soon. And the video is titled Valve is on a Warpath, or Steam is on a warpath. And it has to do with the Steam machine. And I'm this video has almost 500,000 views. And I'm what? I didn't watch it yet because I'm saving it for a members lounge. But I'm there has to be something I'm missing. Either that or that video is totally what that title is insinuating is out of touch. So I'm not sure. And the more I try to look into it, the more I'm I don't know enough about Valve and about Steam to truly be able to determine to try to predict, I guess you could say, what will happen with Sony. In regards to how they're going to treat Steam going forward, what changes they could make, what alterations, what deviations, what pivots. I don't know. I do not know. Leia wants to come in. Gaming Survivor, stop being mean. I will put you on timeout, boy. I am the law. I need to make that a soundbite. Bro, those videos are to garner attention. You fell for easy bait. I didn't even watch it. I didn't even fall for it. I didn't even click it. I just looked at it. How dare you look at that video? But it did catch my interest where I'm they're on a warpath. That's not what I've been told. Notice how much Steam is discussed on a PlayStation-centric channel. Well, yeah, it's a natural thing because one of our main topics of discussion is Death Stranding 2 being rated for PC. I mean, are we assuming that Death Stranding 2 is going to be the first game to launch on Sony's PlayStation PC launcher? I don't think so. I think it's obviously it's going to be dropping on Steam. Will it go to Xbox? Death Stranding 1 went to Xbox. Oh. Now, that would be an interesting one. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. If Death Stranding 1 is on Xbox, then you would assume Death Stranding 2 will be on there. Rage bait BG. You're saying I just want a war since Xbox is gone? Not necessarily. No. It's not that I want it. It's just I'm trying to figure out so we're cool, right? And I don't know. I feel that way, but sometimes I come across stuff like that. I'm wait, what do we mean? What do you mean they're on the warpath? I thought they were shaking hands and We're doing business deals, you know? It's like kind of how I view Sony and Microsoft now, where it's like if I saw a thumbnail on a video where it said like Xbox is on a warpath, you know, I would be like, what? Like I know enough about Microsoft and have enough insight into everything that they're doing where I'm like, no, they're not. They're on the opposite of a warpath. They're on literally the opposite side of that. Right? Like now they're friends with everybody more than ever before. They're best buds with PlayStation now. So that to me is clear. I think the situation with Nintendo is becoming clear by the day. And I see a lot of people, you know, talking about Valve and talking about Steam naturally because of the Steam machine. And so I'm just trying to evaluate the entire landscape and get a read where it's like, well, all right, well, listen, Sony, if you're putting Death Stranding 2 onto PC within 6 months of launching it on PlayStation, which is, again, the shortest time frame for a single-player tentpole title from PlayStation that we've ever seen, then my assumption is you are shaking hands with Valve. Like, you guys are also buds. There is no friction here. Does that mean you're going to let Steam on PlayStation? No, obviously not. Not saying that, you know, but you guys are like acquaintances. Maybe Microsoft is now trying to become best buds with Steam and bring it over on the Xbox Magnus. They really want to be bros. I think Sony's more like, we can be acquaintances, you know? That's kind of my view of it. And wow, bro, who the hell is Carlos? What is that? I just noticed. I talked right through that, bro. Who the hell is Carlos? Dropped a $1 super sticker. And it looks unsettling, to say the least. Gamer Survivor's going to get beat, bro. Yeah. Gamer Survivor's going to get beat. Formerly Capcom lawyer with another super chat. Thank you, buddy. You're saying Valve and Nintendo do their own things, which is why I don't get it when PlayStation or Xbox fans get their panties in a twist over them. LOL, they just chillin'. Well, at least for, I can't speak for other PlayStation or Xbox fans, right? But for me as a PlayStation fan, I wouldn't say my panties are in a twist, right? Would hope not. What I would say is other people, like I'm encountering, and again, I understand Capcom lawyer, I already know what your answer to this is going to be. I already know. And it's what a lot of other people are going to say. And they're like, bro, the internet isn't real life. I get it. I'm just saying, because I unfortunately am chronically online, which I'm going to try to do something about this, guys. I am. I promise. I owe it to myself. I'm going to try to do something about this. But because I'm chronically online, I've come across a lot of things, okay, where that is not what is being projected. It is the opposite. Like the amount of, and this is where I feel like I am making the critical mistake. Okay. And Titus comes in with a super sticker that I don't think is as bad as the first one, but all right, guys, real quick before we continue, take a good look. I'm going to put up a poll. Okay? Take a good look. Take it in.
Wisely.
Take it in. Look at it. Look at it. I want all of you to look at it. Take it in. Now I'm going to put up a poll. I'm going to ask. Well, I'm just going to put it up. All right. I wasn't going to do this. Mrs. MBG made me do this. Vote on that poll. Titus, thank you for your contribution, by the way, buddy. I appreciate that. Boss, we didn't even get a single membership, bro. I'm sorry. You're not getting treats today. Get away from that, boy. You are going. These cats, man. They stress me so bad. W poll. What the F did I just witness, bro? Who are you people and where is my horse? All right. No way, Titus. No way. But yeah, I was just saying, Capcom Lawyer, that I do encounter, and this is where I'm just too open, I suppose, to listening to what people have to say because I am not the most familiar with Steam and Valve. And we have Metal Gear Ray coming in. Ray's doing it. Ray says, you know what, man? Corey ain't here today. Where's Corey? Ray says, I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna be the first one to drop 5 memberships. So Metal Gear Ray, let me give you your soundbite, bro.
But that was some fancy shooting. You were pretty good.
Thank you so much for that, buddy. So that's the first 5 of the day. Guys, we're going to try to push to see if we can reach that 25 mark. That's the first member goal. We'll see if we can do it. By the way, now that we have more people here, I do want to let you know, I did say this earlier, just in case you're not aware, we are streaming in 4K right now. Well, actually, can you guys confirm to me that we're streaming in 4K? Because I have everything set to 4K. I probably should ask you guys if it's actually coming through. What was that breathing? Was I breathing on the like? Are we at 4K? You have to let me know. I'm sorry. All right, so it also says we're at 6 members, by the way. I don't know why we're at 6 members. I'll just do what YouTube's telling me. It says we're at 6 members somehow. So there we go. Michael, you're saying something has been off with my stream? What? What's been off? Are you unsettled that you're seeing me in 4K? It's all right. Boston 4K is extra cute. Extra annoying. We have a formerly Capcom Lawyer. Thank you for the super chats, buddy. You're saying Twitch added the ability to gift 1,000 subs. First thing someone did is gift 1K to a female millionaire streamer. Simps are different. And Titus comes in with 1,000 membership. I'm just kidding. They don't have that ability. Titus, bro. He comes in and he drops a 20 bomb on you guys. 20 memberships dropping from the sky. From our good friend. Titus. I'm just going to say Titus S. Because every time I try to pronounce your last name, I think I butcher it. Titus, that's very kind of you, bro. He just got us to the goal. And Capcom Lawyer, so how much money is that? 1,000 subs. How much is that? I'm trying to imagine if you could do that on YouTube. That would be the equivalent of dropping 1,000 memberships. I'm going to end the poll. I don't know if you heard Mrs. MBG. I'm going to end the poll, and she says if Poop wins, I'm timing out Gaming Survivor. So you guys got 10 more seconds to vote. That's $5,000. Yo, what? What? What's Twitch's cut of that? Oh, Titus, I forgot to play this for you, by the way.
Holy shit.
There you go. We ended the poll. I love how 41% of you who voted said, "Where am I?" 37% said Turkey. 22% said poop. Great stream. This is where the PlayStation players come to hear about PlayStation news. Titus, let me add your memberships to the goal. So we're now at 26. I'll bump this up to 50. We'll see if we can. Who knows? Maybe we can hit the 50 mark before the stream's over today, and we'll give Boss some of his treats. So Titus and Ray, you guys made Boss very happy today. My muscles are too big. Your cellular carrier is saying it's taking too much data to download. I'm sorry, Michael. I've been slacking, bro. Let me tell you, I've really been slacking. It's not even funny. So Twitch takes 30%. So it would be 30% off of 5K. 30% for smaller and 20%. Oh, 20%. Really? You think it would be the opposite? 30% for smaller streamers is what they take, and then 20% for the bigger streamers? I would have thought that they would have taken the 30% from the bigger and then done 20% for the smaller streamers. Wes. I'm just removing that. No, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the support. We still have the Destiny topic to go over and talk about, and I think a few other smaller topics. We're going to make sure to get that done, but I just want to take a moment to thank you for dropping the support. If you renewed your membership, or if you got gifted a membership, or if you are currently a member, we'll probably, I don't know, we got Thanksgiving tomorrow, so I'm not sure when the next time we're going to do members lounge is, but we'll do it soon. We'll have more members content coming, so just hang in there. All right, come on. There you go, boss. 10 treats. We cap it at 10 now. I can tell boss has been getting a little bit frustrated that he only gets 10 treats now, which is lower than the recommended. They recommend like 15 or 18 treats or something like that. So I only give him 10. I've been doing pretty good with it, but I can tell he's getting a little agitated. He's just going to have to deal with it, though. He's going to have to deal with it. Like, it's for his own good. Burnt Peanut had 102,000 people watching him playing Arc Raiders last night. That could have been you, MBG. 102, dude. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have 102,000. I think I would collapse under the pressure. 102,000 people. I wouldn't even know what to do. I wouldn't even know what to do. I'd have to have somebody tell me it's 102 people. Like, oh, okay. That's crazy, though. That's crazy. It's also wild what you said, Capcom lawyer. Like, at first I was shocked to see that you said Twitch added the ability to gift 1,000 subs. That's crazy. But then you said somebody gifted 1,000 subs to a female millionaire streamer. Simps are different. I don't understand that, but you know, I'm not really gonna judge it, I guess, either, because it's like, well, I'm a believer in like people are free to do what they want, I guess, with their money. Like if you want to drop it there, that's cool. But bro, that's crazy. 1,000 subs is nuts. Yeah, Arc Raiders are still going strong, man. You're saying it wasn't even moving fast because everybody was so locked in and watching the gameplay? That's awesome. I think I know who that is, Capcom Lawyer. I think I've seen her pop up a couple times. Leia, you want some? Oh, okay, hold on. We have a rare Leia appearance. She wants some treats. There you go. Wait, Gaming Survivor, what are you saying? Just saying those Sunday. Oh, you're saying these new AI from China makes a male streamer look like a sexy female. Just saying, bro, those Sunday streams. Michael says, to be fair, the reason I donate to you is because, do I want to know? Well, no, I appreciate the support I get. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do. I set up my... Leia, you literally ate 3 treats and left. All right, that's fine. I set up my second channel. I'm not going to like advertise it or anything yet. I mean, I'm telling you guys I set it up. I'm not going to advertise or anything yet, but I'm thinking I'm going to try and see how it goes. I could be wrong. I said yesterday that there would be no point in me making a clips channel because my streams are timestamped, but there is also the psychology behind it where it's like there is a difference between seeing a 5.5 hour timestamp or a 3.5 hour timestamp versus seeing like a 12 to 20 minute timestamp. You know, people are going to be much more hesitant to click on a stream/video that's multiple hours than something that's just 10 to 20 minutes. So I'm thinking about trying to do some clips for that channel, and we'll see how it goes. And for now, I'll continue to run this channel as I do. We'll do the news videos. We'll continue to do the regular streams. I've been calling the streams I've been doing Press X Podcast for so long. I changed it up, going back to the old way. Maybe I'll go back to Press X Podcast. I don't know. I'm always undecided on that. I never know what to call it. Like, just call it live, just doing a live stream, or do I call it a podcast? I don't know. I felt strange calling it a podcast because I'm like, it doesn't feel like a traditional podcast because it's just me solo streaming here. But maybe I'm just getting lost in the weeds and it really doesn't matter. But guys, we do have another topic we need to discuss, and that is regarding Bungie and Destiny 3 and the future of the studio. This is actually a nice follow-up to what we discussed yesterday. We talked about Bungie extensively, and I was not expecting the very next day to be getting a rumor that Destiny 3 is now in early development. It's so funny. It's like Bungie listened to my suggestion and was like, we're going to do the opposite. I said yesterday that Bungie... If I was in charge of Bungie, I'd have them start making single-player games, which I know is probably crazy, but, you know, I think some people, you know... Hold on one sec, guys. Okay, we have formerly Capcom Lawyer with a super chat, and he says Destiny 1 and 2 should be taken down, replaced with a newer version, 1, 2, or 3, just Destiny. Add everything from past DLC for free, then charge for new. Interesting. Well, I mean, honestly, that idea is fascinating because when we talk about Destiny 3, look, man, you guys know I'm not a Destiny player. I get the sense, though, that people don't really know where Destiny is going to go next because they feel as though Bungie doesn't know what to do with it next. And I could be wrong about that. I'm like stammering here because I'm trying my best to remember anything about Destiny. I beat the first game. I didn't play any of the DLC. I played a little bit of the second one. And I don't remember anything. The only thing I actually remember is Peter Dinklage. I think that's his name. He was originally like the little robot thing. The Ghost, is that what they called it? I forget what they called it. But then he got replaced or something. And everybody was like clowning on his voice performance. But I don't know, this idea of taking Destiny 1 and 2 down, replacing it with just Destiny, and it's everything, I kind of like that idea. But I'm not sure how players would react to that. Because I almost wonder if maybe like the better option would be, if you're going to do a Destiny 3, maybe do a clean slate, I should say. But just so we're on the same page here, I came across this on Push Square. It says Destiny 3 allegedly in extremely early development, could be a tentpole title for PS6, but likely many years away. It says rumor has it that Bungie has started preliminary work on Destiny 3, which, if true, would comfortably become one of Sony's biggest releases for the PS6. The speculation comes courtesy of Colony Deeks, a known Destiny leaker and data miner who's revealed accurate information in the past. Writing on X, he claims they've been aware of the sequel status for some weeks now, but underlined that the project is in an early state. The account adds that it intends to share more in the coming weeks. I'll give you the whole quote. They say, yes, Destiny 3 is in extremely early development. Some of you may have seen a tweet early this afternoon that mentioned that. We've been sitting on this info for a few weeks now and wanted to wait to talk about this, seeing as it is in such an early state, and it sucks to see others post about it carelessly for free internet points. I'm not sure who they're referring to there. They say we plan to share more info in the coming months as we wait on the larger scale for things to develop and take shape. Sit tight. So, this isn't like the thing that I think what makes this a big deal is just flat out the confirmation. If this is to be believed, I'm not familiar with this person. I don't pay attention to Destiny or Bungie leakers. So the big thing here is we heard previously that Destiny 3 was not a thing that was in development at all at Bungie. Now we're hearing, according to this source, that no, it is. It's very early. Like, this sounds like they just started conceptualizing it, not even pre-production work. That's my read on this. But it does confirm the big thing, which is they are doing a third game. Regardless, Destiny gameplay is really good. Or you're saying Destiny gameplay is really good regardless of their DLCs? I mean, I enjoyed what I played of Destiny for the short time I played it. I just wasn't on board with continually sticking with it. I played Destiny 1 like a beginning, middle, and end game and did some grinding at the end game, but then I was like, all right, I'm moving on. I tried to do it again with Destiny 2, but fell off much quicker. But from what I played, it's like, yeah, the one thing I can say about Bungie is they are experts of their craft, which is making a good feeling first-person shooter. There's no denying that, regardless of their mismanagement and their struggles to maintain Destiny 2. They know how to make a good feeling shooter. And I saw the trailer for this upcoming Renegades, the Star Wars thing, and it looks kind of cool, I guess. It's not going to bring me in. I'm not even really a huge Star Wars fan anymore. Like I'm like a lapsed Star Wars fan, I guess, where I'm highly selective of anything Star Wars related that I partake in. It's really just gotten to a point where I don't do anything with Star Wars anymore. It's been like that for years now. But it does kind of make sense that they would want to do this in the Destiny universe. I just don't know that it's I mean, Star Wars kind of struggles already, doesn't it? Star Wars has some issues. So I don't know if this is the best collaboration, but the universes colliding makes sense. The thing that I find interesting about the Renegades DLC is how apparently it's not like you're not getting Star Wars characters being put into Destiny. It's characters that are like reminiscent of, it's like, I guess, a visual aesthetic that's reminiscent of characters from Star Wars. It's really weird. Like, you're not seeing like Han Solo or Darth Vader, as far as I'm aware. in Destiny. You're seeing like a character that looks like Kylo Ren but isn't Kylo Ren. I don't know. It's an interesting choice, and I wonder how they pulled that off, because I feel like, I don't know. It's like, well, I don't know. Very strange to me. Michael, you're saying, well, Relapse. You want me to get back into Destiny? I mean, look, if Bungie does a Destiny 3, I say this as somebody, again, who played Destiny 1, fell off of it, didn't even complete Destiny 2. I'll try out Marathon when it comes out. Certainly, I'll try it. I may hate it. I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. But if it's not for me, it's not for me. If they do a Destiny 3, and it's in very early development right now, let's say this will be a PlayStation 6 title. Now, it's not just going to be a PlayStation 6 title. If Destiny 3 does happen, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be on PlayStation 6. It's going to be on PlayStation 5. It's probably not going to be on PS4. It'll be on the Xbox Series consoles, more than likely. It'll be on the Xbox Magnus. It'll be on Steam. It's going to be everywhere. If they come out and they're like, we're starting over, clean slate, you don't need to know anything about Destiny 1, about Destiny 2, nothing, I'd be on board. If they come out with Destiny 3 and they're like, this is for Destiny 2 players, I will pass on it. I'll be like, cool, but I didn't play Destiny 2. I don't know what's happening. I have no idea. And what Capcom lawyer said about the idea of like, if Destiny 3 is something new, but they're going to have everything there that already occurred that you can go back and replay it. I think like Final Fantasy 14 is like that, isn't it? Where you can go back and play all the legacy content, catch yourself up if you want. It's there. Maybe I would consider doing that. But everything I've seen about Destiny, it seems so messy and disorganized. I see people already complaining about the idea of getting things wiped again, and I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't think I want to know what they're talking about. We have a New Soul 9 with a $20 super chat. New Soul, thank you for that, buddy. He says, MBG, it's actually not that crazy because Pearl Abyss, the creator of Black Desert Online, started with a live service game, and now they're going to make a single player based on that universe/lore, which is Crimson Desert. Yes, New Soul. I'm so glad you brought that up because I was just looking through the PlayStation Store the other day, trying very hard to avoid all the slop. But I saw Black Desert Online, or sorry, not Black Desert Online. I saw Crimson Desert. And I don't know, I guess it's Black Desert Online that really had me kind of confused, where I clicked on it and it's like single player, like solo. That's it. Like, and I just felt very confused. And I'm like, wait, I thought this was a multiplayer game. I thought this game, Crimson Desert, was going to be multiplayer. I'm like, wait, wasn't this game an MMO? But then that's where I realized, like, no. You're confusing it with Black Desert Online. That is, if I understand correctly, that's basically an MMO. And now they're making a full-blown single player. And I guess also the scale of the game, when I saw Crimson Desert and all the different times we've seen it shown off, the scale of it, yeah, I mean, it kind of doesn't look like it knows what it wants to be, but it's doing a lot of things. And I'm like, this all looks really good. It just naturally looked like it, like almost like a multiplayer MMO, or like you would expect there's going to be a bunch of other players here. And it kind of really did intrigue me. And I'm like, oh, it is single player. Okay. And it's funny because when I was talking about Bungie yesterday, when I was talking about Destiny and the idea of just do a single player game based in the Destiny universe. Yeah, New Soul, I think you're absolutely correct. We have an example of this, and it does seem like Crimson Desert's going to sell really well. There's a lot of hype for Crimson Desert. And I could imagine Bungie doing something like this. But at the same time, though, I don't know what the health of Black Desert Online is.
You realize
I don't know
Death
if this
Stranding
game
1 was announced for PC
is
before
thriving.
it launched on PS4, so I don't think there is any change of direction for Sony with DS2 PC.
Oh, Moonshot, thank you for the direct donation. I'm gonna read that in a second, or respond to that in a second. I'm just gonna wrap up what I'm saying here to New Soul. What I was gonna say, New Soul, is I don't know what the health of Black Desert Online is. I don't know what the player base looks like. All I do know is that I've been seeing multiple reports in recent months that Destiny 2 is basically dying. Like, the player counts keep dropping, and nothing that Bungie is doing is getting those player counts back up. Even when they launched their last expansion, it did like half or less than half. I forget exactly, but it didn't do anywhere near as good in terms of how many players decided to come back compared to the previous expansion. So again, I can understand, and it makes logical sense to me, why Bungie's like, okay, well, if Destiny 2 is dying and we can't save it, then we have to start work on Destiny 3. And Destiny 3 is going to have to be our new live service. It makes logical sense. If Black Desert Online, if that game is doing well and is not having that problem, then it makes sense they keep maintaining that while making this single-player game based in that universe. They can kind of have the best of both worlds. I do think that it would be ideal if Bungie could have both, if they could have their cake and eat it too in this scenario, but right now, I guess, yeah, this rumor is believable because we're seeing what's happening with Destiny 2. It's slowly dying, and also, if you're Sony, I don't know how much control Sony has over Bungie at this point, but Sony did pay, like we said, $3.6 billion for the studio. If you're Sony, I can't blame them. They're like, you got to do Destiny 3. You got to do it. Like, we need that live service success story. That's what we paid for, you know? We need that live service revenue. Black Desert Online does around 17,000 concurrent on Steam, but that's not all of them. Most probably use their own launcher. Oh, okay. Yeah, what are hold on, let me see. Destiny 2 concurrent players. So Destiny 2 Steam charts. Oh, it's funny. Their 24-hour peak was 17,600. Their all-time peak was 316,000. Actually, while I'm here, what's Helldivers looking like? Helldivers concurrent. I'm going to pivot for a second here. Well, before I do that, Capcom Lawyer, let me make sure I read your super chat. You're saying, surprisingly, Destiny's player base is 40% PlayStation, 30% Xbox, and 30% PC. For that type of game, usually, you'd see most players on PC. Maybe do early access for PS6. Well, the Push Square article, you know, they're saying this could potentially be a PlayStation 6 tentpole title. I mean, the leaker didn't say that. I think Push Square is just framing it that way because it is a PlayStation-owned IP at this point. And the assumption is that certainly by the time something like Destiny 3 is ready to release, certainly PlayStation has complete and full control over Bungie. So would they want to do some kind of early access for PS6? Maybe. I don't think Sony should do that, though, to be honest. I think if Sony does do a Destiny 3 and they have complete control over Bungie, I think they just have to just keep it multi-plat. You know, if you already have the lion's share of the player base, then you're fine. I don't think you'll have to worry. I don't think anybody's going to leave, you know, because it's not exclusive. Talking about the idea of Destiny 3. Gaming Survivor, you got a couple songs here. Dude, the song title's Cerny's Crazy PlayStation Train? No way. PlayStation Shot Xbox. All right, well, guys, we'll see. We'll see where we are at the end of the stream. If we hit 50 members by the end of the stream, I'll play these songs, okay? I have to try to do some kind of incentive, but Gaming Survivor, as you know, at some point we will listen to them. Members or not. Oh, you think just the beta and that on PlayStation 6? Well, yeah, the idea of Destiny 3 leveraging Sony leveraging some type of if not exclusivity, like benefits or perks if you play on PlayStation. I could see them doing that because it'll be easy for them to do that. But, I mean, even now we see Sony doing stuff like that with Battlefield 6 where it's like you get an XP bonus. We saw them doing that with Call of Duty for years. Yeah, I could see them doing smaller things like that for a game like Destiny 3 and even Marathon, frankly, coming up. The only thing with Marathon that I think is going to be very different from Destiny 3, and this is another thing that I do want to point out when we talk about the idea of Destiny 3, Marathon, I'm fairly certain Sony has, like, no say on it in any regard. Maybe not any regard, but in terms of, like, I don't think Sony is communicating with Bungie in the development of this game. And I think the reason I think this is because when we go back to when Sony bought Bungie, it seemed pretty clear that, like, Bungie's whole thing is we're going to be independent, we're going to do our own thing. And a bunch of different contracts were signed, a bunch of different agreements. I think one of those agreements is Sony can't do anything with Marathon. You just, like, it would be a breach of contract. I don't think that means Sony isn't taking over Bungie. I think Sony confirmed they're already in the process of absorbing Bungie entirely. Bungie is going to become a full-blown, non-independent PlayStation-owned studio. Which, they would have owned them. You get what I'm saying, though. Like, they're going to be fully absorbed. But I think part of these, part of, like, a clause in these contracts or something is, like, Bungie's, like, Sony's not allowed to interfere with Marathon. I could be wrong about that, but I just get that feeling. To whereas I feel like Destiny 3, Sony could, I don't say do whatever they want, but, like, Sony's allowed to be hands-on with that at that point. By that point, it's like, okay, we've completely absorbed you, and the only reason we've completely absorbed you is because you dropped the ball and you don't know what you're doing anymore. You need to be properly managed. Now we're stepping in to do that. And now we're going to also give our 2 cents here. We want to help mold Destiny 3 as well. I could see Sony potentially doing that, but they might have to. I don't know that you just want to leave a game like Destiny 3 purely in Bungie's hands. Obviously let them do most of it. They're the experts with the Destiny franchise, but I think maybe, there's some level of guidance that Sony can maybe bring to the table with Destiny 3 that Bungie could greatly benefit from. So if Destiny 3 is DOA, it'll be fully on Sony. That's kind of the double-edged sword. Yeah, you bought them. You bought them. You own them. I think realistically, if Destiny 3 fails, people will look at that and be like, Bungie messed up. But yes, it will. I'll put it to you this way. If Destiny 3 fails, I think that's going to be painful for Sony financially and be devastating for them financially. Reputationally, I think Sony will be fine. I think people might even feel sorry for Sony at that point. Like, geez, man, you guys really... okay, People are going to be mad at Bungie, though. I really do believe that because I look at the way people talk about Bungie now and the way they talk about Destiny 2, and it's kind of crazy because the amount of people I've seen say, like, they want to see Sony step in. Like, they want to see Sony mess with the management and try to correct something. Try to, course correct the ship. I'm not saying Sony could do that effectively. Maybe they could, maybe they couldn't, but it's just one of these things where people are, like, when Pete Parsons, the announcement came that he's stepping down, like, people were celebrating. I'm like, that's not good. That's definitely not good. Something's definitely wrong when that's happening. But MBG, be hard actually for that. They have account sharing for Destiny, so loot is available wherever you play. Okay. Yeah, maybe just to keep things going as smooth as they can, just make Destiny 3 just full multi-plat, Don't have any type of exclusivity, just leave it be. Yeah, yeah. I think Sony has there is potential. There is potential, not much. I do feel like Bungie truly lost their way, and I do feel, as I said yesterday, now granted I was being very assertive in my, not assertive, but aggressive, I guess, very negative. And I still feel mostly negative about Bungie. I still do feel if there was one thing I could undo, it would be Sony's purchase of Bungie, because it's like I feel like almost any other purchase would have been better and made more sense for Sony than Bungie. I do still feel like when we talk about the idea of Destiny 3, there is potential. There's no denying that there's potential, where I feel as though if you were to poll the entire Destiny community, people who left years ago, people who are still playing, and everybody in between, or even non-Destiny fans or players, if you were to poll everybody, essentially, about the idea of Destiny 3, like, would you like to see Destiny 3? I think the majority of people would say, yeah, I would. I do think that. The question is, a follow-up question would be, do you think they're going to nail it? I think that's when people are like, oh, I don't know. I don't have much confidence. I don't think so. Even in my comment section on my video today, I saw some positivity towards Bungie, but I also saw other people saying like they've lost faith in Bungie completely. So Destiny 3, even more so than Marathon, would have to do so much right. It would have to bring things to the table that would truly excite the player base, truly reignite the Destiny fan base in a hugely meaningful way. That isn't just, it's more of the same. That isn't just, we're sorry. It has to be something truly exciting. Something that can capture the hype and excitement that was there for something like Destiny 1, which I don't know how you do that. I don't know that Sony knows how you do that. I don't know that Bungie at this point even knows how you do that. But you got to start somewhere. And I guess you start right here, right now, by deciding you're going to make Destiny 3 and beginning the early conceptualization of what this game will be and how you handle it. And all I can add to that as a non-Destiny player or somebody who only partook in it very briefly, if you're going to do Destiny 3, I just hope it's a clean start and a clean slate, because if it's not, that's going to make somebody like me, who could be a potential fan, who could be a potential long-term player, it's going to make me be extremely hesitant if I have to go in and there's any baggage. I'm just being honest. I mean, I'm sure there are many Destiny 2 players who are like, that's blasphemy, that's insane. And actually, I'd be interested to know the answer to that question from longtime Destiny 2 players. Like, how do they feel about the idea of a complete clean slate starting over? Is that something that they would welcome at this point? Is that something that would actually make them say, I'm done? Like, I'm out. I'm never coming back. This is how you lose me. I'd be curious to know. Titus, what are you saying here? You're saying it's sitting at negative, about to go into overwhelmingly negative? 94% negative reviews? Wait, what game are you talking about? 94% negative reviews? Don't tell me you're talking about Call of Duty. No way. No way. MBG, nobody is here for the extractive, offensive model Bungie is all about. It's thousands to play Destiny. I've heard about that too, that their monetization is just some of the worst in the business, which is a shame. Maybe they would have to completely overhaul it and rethink it. Oh, you were talking about Call of Duty. My God. 94% negative reviews, bro? What? Gaming Survivor says, I'm so old, I remember looking down as Destiny players, or at Destiny players as the new kids when they made the game after Halo. Man, now you're old Gaming Survivor. Well, I guess I am too, for that matter. I am too. Alvin, you're saying much more faith in Destiny 3 than trying to continue with Destiny 2. You're saying that as a longtime player. Interesting. I mean, I've heard some commentary, not much, but some commentary from longtime Destiny 2 players, and I've heard them say pretty much the same thing, that they're kind of ready for, maybe not ready right now, but the future of Destiny, it being Destiny 3, starting over, they're okay with that. You missed the old tower in Destiny. And formerly Capcom lawyer with a super chat says, Black Ops 6 is also rated mostly negative on Steam. I've been seeing some arguments happening online, if not arguments, just opinions, I guess, differing opinions, where people who were playing the Black Ops 7 multiplayer, and you said Black Ops 6, and that was last year's Call of Duty, and it was okay. It was okay. But I've been seeing some like differing opinions where people are like, well, Black Ops 7's campaign is not good and maybe like really horrible actually. But the multiplayer is amazing. Or even the zombies. And I think that's funny where it's like, that's what most people who are going to play Call of Duty, that's what they're going to gravitate towards. So it is more important that those experiences are better than the campaign, I suppose, because those experiences are the ones that people are going to keep returning to, and they're going to be like monetized to no end. But I did play the beta for Black Ops 7, and I'm like, I think I just don't like, I don't know, man. I wanted to try to be interested in Black Ops 7, but I just don't think I like the futuristic, even like near future setting. I'm curious to see how I feel about Modern Warfare 4 next year and how they choose to handle that, because I'm always into like modern military shooters, I've always liked the Modern Warfare series, although I feel like the more recent Modern Warfare Call of Duty series, I didn't get super into it. Like, I played it and I'm like, this is pretty good. I'm not, I'm not enjoying it, but I'm not really thrilled with it either. It's just, it's okay. This is fine. If Modern Warfare 4 is that, I don't know if I'm going to partake or not. If it's something that looks really good, though, but then I look at like Battlefield 6, I'm like, Battlefield 6 feels like it kind of took that spot now, though, right? Which is kind of weird. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But Titus says, I didn't know how deep the rabbit hole went, so I was out. I don't want to be a wallet for anyone, only my extractive family. You could be a wallet for me, Titus. You don't have any... Jack says he doesn't have any faith in any live service game at launch. That's fair. I think that's fair. Live service games have garnered a reputation where at launch you're going to get the worst version. MVG, the people who give bad reviews every year on Call of Duty are the same people who buy it every year. It's insane. Just like Madden, FIFA haters. They keep buying it. Yeah, I think it's just like an abusive relationship at some point where they love to hate it and hate to love it, and it's just not healthy. But let me see here. I wanted to bring up Helldivers for a moment. I forgot to cover this in a video, but there's a new Helldivers. Let me see. There's a new Helldivers Warbond. So Helldivers 2 Python Commandos Premium Warbond airdrops December 2nd. Brings with it a minigun, combination assault rifle and grenade launcher, chameleon camo pattern, and more. Helldivers high-ranking officials in the military of defense have have accused you of being the best. And if you are the best, then you're going to need to be outfitted with the best, which is why the ministry has fast-tracked the deployment of the Python Commandos Premium War Bond. They've accused you of being the best. And this is a premium, so I'm looking it over here. Okay. It's quite a bit. Let's see, you get 2 new armor sets, the RS-40 Beast of Prey, the RS-20 Constrictor, new primary weapon, assault rifle, GL-21. It's called the 1-2, the M1000 minigun, the defilation tool, armored. It's called the Hot Dog, armored guard dog. There's a bunch of stuff. Front-leaning rest position as an emote. What? Okay, so sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted. I wanted to cover this for a moment because, let's do like a what do you call it? A gut check? I don't know. Let's just check in on Helldivers 2. What's going on with Helldivers 2? So the peak over on Steam, 24-hour peak, 28,523. Number 35 in daily active users. Are we thinking that Helldivers 2 is really starting to slow down now? We're going to pay for emotes, bro. Are we thinking that Helldivers 2 is maybe reaching its final... I don't know how to word it, not final days, but like this is going to be where it settles, where you're going to have probably between 18 and 28,000 to 30,000 players, depending on what content is dropping, right? You thought it was dead. I didn't think it was dead. I never got the feeling that it was dead. But I did get the feeling, and I have had the feeling for a little while, that its time in the sun is kind of up. And I'm curious about this because we know that Helldivers 2 is, I don't want to say the only successful live service game for Sony, because they have the MLB games, they have Gran Turismo, but I think Helldivers 2 was basically like the first and only live service game for Sony that really blew up. And Sony was obviously very excited about this. And I told you guys last year and earlier this year that I was going to be paying attention to Helldivers 2 and specifically how Sony and Arrowhead were going to handle it, because I'm trying to figure out if they are planning to grow this into like a platform type live service game, or if this is just something where they're like, we'll get a couple years out of it, maybe 5 years, and over the course of those 5 years it'll just decline more and more and more until eventually it just kind of reaches its final resting place, and that'll be it. I think it's actually that, and the reason I say this is because we know that Arrowhead is already making another game, and I did see another report regarding Arrowhead where they commented on their upcoming game, and they said that it's not going to be Helldivers 3, but it will have a recognizable like DNA that Helldivers players will recognize and be able to feel. I really wonder how Sony feels about this. I really do. And I'm really curious to see how Arrowhead's first game post Helldivers 2 ends up doing. Because, well, it'll be on PlayStation, but Sony's not publishing. PlayStation Studios has nothing to do with it. Sony does own the Helldivers IP. More exciting to see Arrowhead make something else. I am curious. Yeah, I mean, they have a fan in me, certainly, after Helldivers 2. I never did play Helldivers 1, but I remember Helldivers 2. I'll never forget how I was more hyped for Helldivers 2 than the average person. And it was quite a surprise to me to see that like whatever I was expecting, it was going to be way beyond that. But I do remember every time I saw that game, I'm like, I'm ready for this, man. Like, I'm excited for it, and I think it looks really good. It looks very promising. Again, I had no idea it was going to be the next big thing, but yeah, I do wonder what Sony does next with Helldivers, because Sony has two options as the owner of the IP. Number one, don't do anything with it unless Arrowhead is involved, similar to something like Bloodborne, where people really want this. There's a lot of interest in it. I think there's a lot of sales and money to be made. You know, you could monetize the hell out of Bloodborne. But if From Software is not going to be involved for whatever reason, then maybe don't do anything. Just leave it alone. Or they could go in the other direction and say, well, Helldivers 2 was such a massive success for us that we're going to continue on with it with or without Arrowhead. I don't think you do that. I think that's a huge mistake. But at the same time, I don't know about you guys, but Arrowhead did say that they want Helldivers 2 to be a 10-year game, but I'm like, how do you do that? It really didn't do much, barely lasted 2 years. They should have done better with the content. Well, the one thing I can say about Arrowhead and Helldivers that I can't blame them for is they were not prepared, because how could they be? Everybody was caught off guard. Arrowhead, Sony, even the players themselves, they were like, we didn't know we would like this game this much. And I think that they tried their best to keep up with it, but I mean, you do have to wonder what a Helldivers 2 that was prepped for launch expecting to get 300,000 players concurrently. 15 million sales, something crazy like that. You do have to wonder like how different that content prep and roadmap would have been. And I find it interesting that Arrowhead has went on record saying that they want Helldivers 2 to be a 10-year game, but I'm just not sure how you make that happen while also making a second game. And my assumption, somebody can tell me if there is information on this out here, my assumption is that their next game is going to be a live service title. I don't think it's going to be a single player. It wouldn't make sense. Not even like a co-op single player. I'm assuming it's going to be a live service multiplayer title. So I just don't know how you run multiple live service games at once. I mean, Arrowhead obviously grew. They hired a lot of people, but they're not that big. I mean, they're not like a team of like 800 or 1,000. They're not a Bungie. You know what I mean? They don't have like well over 1,000 devs. Arrowhead should take the success they made and make an IP they fully control, get away from the big corporate overlord Sony. Well, I mean, I kind of get that vibe. Truly. I mean, the thing is, Arrowhead has went on record saying that Sony's been great. And people refer to that time Sony was like, no, we're going to implement the, PSN accounts for Helldivers 2. And we don't know what happened behind the scenes. Like, we don't know if Arrowhead was like, no, don't do it. And Sony was like, we're doing it anyway. And we don't know if that had some kind of negative impact on their working relationship. I will say, and it could just be they're being cordial. They're trying to be polite. But the CEO of Arrowhead has only had good things to say. He said that Sony's been awesome. When Sony put Helldivers on Xbox, he said that was all Sony. So I don't think let's face it, like Sony is part of the reason. I mean, we got to give the credit where it's due. I'm not trying to blow smoke up Sony right now, but it's just like the fact of the matter is without Sony, Helldivers 2 wouldn't, they go hand in hand. Sony funded the game. They gave them double the budget. They told them to make it bigger, and they gave them extra time to do so. So Sony believed in the game, enough to fund it and publish it and encourage them to make it bigger. And it really worked out. Really worked out for Arrowhead. So I don't think Arrowhead's like mad at Sony. I don't get the vibe that they're like, we don't want anything to do with you. But I do get the vibe that Arrowhead is an independent team. And if they have the means to make their own game and do it on their own and not be tethered to anybody, they'll do that. And again, you can't blame them. Who wouldn't want to do that? Not many developers are in that position where they make so much money that they could just like basically publish their own game and do whatever they want. Will it work out? I don't know, but can't blame them for wanting to do that. Again, that PSN fiasco was only withdrawn because people who bought Helldivers 2 couldn't access their game as PSN wasn't available in over 100 countries. Yeah, that to me was what made it strange. I think that my read on the situation when that was going down was, I think Sony was just not, they didn't understand, like, no. Like, you're going to PC, Sony. You don't, Sony's used to having control in their own ecosystem. They're used to, like, this is how we're doing it. And that's just how it's going to be. When they went to PC with Helldivers and the PSN network or the PlayStation accounts, I think that they had that mentality of like, this is how we're going to do it. And it's like, no, Sony, you have to understand, like, this isn't your house anymore. Like, you're now in somebody else's house. In this case, Valve's, because of how successful Helldivers was on Steam. And granted, people were pointing out that like Sony maybe was getting... People were like, Sony was getting too much criticism because, well, every publisher asked to do this. But again, it's the after the fact nature of it. If Helldivers 2 launched on PlayStation, on PC, day one, where you need to make a PlayStation Network account, the blowback would have been a lot less. It was the fact that, like, people's access to this game is just now going to be revoked because of where they live. And I think that's where Sony was having an internal struggle of like, but it's so successful. We want, this will be great for our PlayStation Network numbers. And it's like, bro, it ain't worth it. Like it ain't worth it. And I think that they took the shot and they found out the hard way. It's like, okay, it's not worth it. They had to learn the hard way. I don't know how much that impacted their relationship with Arrowhead, but I'm sure Arrowhead wasn't happy because they're like, come on, bro, like Sony, you're making our lives more difficult than they need to be. But at the same time, if you're Arrowhead, Sony made them rich. Like, you can't be mad. You can't be mad. Yeah, I mean, the idea like Helldivers 2 wouldn't have blown up if it was required from the start. What's interesting, though, is that I think Sony did learn, where I remember they were like, okay, well, fine. Well, we're going to require you to log in for single-player games. And then people were like, Sony, like, all right, you're clearly going to have to go through every roadblock here the hard way, And then Sony was like, okay, you know what? We're not going to do that. And now it's just, Sony's just settled on, just do it if you want. We'll incentivize you, but just do it if you want. It's like, all right, there we go. And that's good. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think you should be forced to create a PlayStation Network account. I can understand why Sony wants you to, because they want to increase their numbers. But it's like, well, this is, I think, Sony learning the hard way of like, if you're going to go to other places, you're not, you're kind of you have to play by a different rule book, or you have to abide by a different standard. Because, yes, are PlayStation players who buy a PlayStation console, are they expecting to make a PlayStation Network account and used to it? Yeah, they are. And you're used to that too. There's a smooth two-way street there. I think when Sony's going to these other places, like in the case of Helldivers 2, they're like, yeah, we'll just do it the same way. And then they find out like, no, well, it's not going to work that way, Sony. Like, you're going to have to figure out a different solution, or just, you're going to have to accept that you're in a different house right now and there's a different expectation. So it's been interesting to watch this, situation with Helldivers 2, and I was thinking about going back to it. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I might just wait for Marathon at this point and try that out. I really, really enjoyed Helldivers 2. I platinumed it. I put like 110 hours into it, which isn't a whole lot, but I would say that's a pretty good amount. Helldivers 2 didn't have its hooks in me like like some of the live service games that I've gotten addicted to, though. It was one of these games where it's like, yeah, I got my fill and I'm satisfied. Like I don't really feel the need to keep playing this. I don't really want to keep playing it. And every time they've done a big content update, I would go check it out. I'm like, this is cool, but I would only play for a couple of hours. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And I guess I was just kind of curious to see if like most people felt or feel the same way I do, where it's like, yeah, we kind of got our fill. I'm trying to think to myself like what they could do to like get me truly like I'm pumped and I really want to go back now and stay there. I don't know what they could do, to be honest. And they're not doing anything wrong. They've added a lot of stuff to Helldivers 2. You can like customize your weapons now, unlock attachments, level them up. They have like 150 ranks, so you can grind, and they've done a lot. They've added a lot of maps, new enemies, a lot of not battle passes, but the war bonds to grind. So they've done a great job, I think. But I just don't. I guess I wasn't convinced from the start that I don't know that Helldivers 2 is that long. That what game? The black hole game. I don't know how they're described, but I don't know that many people. Like some people are going to make Helldivers 2 their home, but I don't think that's going to be the majority of people. I think the majority of people, when you see hundreds of thousands of people playing, I think the majority of them are going to leave. And that's what I think makes Arc Raiders interesting, is because Arc Raiders is finding a similar success that we saw Helldivers get. And it's almost like on the same path. I'm curious if a similar thing happens with Arc Raiders, where Arc Raiders is basically like the next Helldivers 2. And it kind of unfolds the same way, where, like a year and 9 months or 8 months later, you go check in on Arc Raiders, and it's like, yeah, they have about like 25,000 players. Which, I want to make it clear, Helldivers having 28,500 players in the last 24 hours is good. To be clear, that's good. It's up and down though. Like, I'm looking at the line graph here. The lowest it went was Tuesday, November 20th, at 8,851 players, and that's just on Steam. So it's like basically up and down. Not too bad. Let me look at it for a year. Yeah, okay, so if you look at the last year, I know I don't have it up, but it peaked on Monday, September 1st. I'm assuming that's when a big update dropped. 178,795 players. From that point forward, it was going downhill, 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 going from 133K, 96K, 73K, 54K to, it looks like it really bottomed out on Monday, October 13th. So about a month and a half later, they bottomed out at 38,400 players. They shot up again on October 20th to 47K, but then from that point forward, it was a slow descent from 47K down to where we are now at 28.5. So, it seems like if they want to bring a lot of players back, they're going to have to do a big content update again. You read way too much into things, MEG. Arrowhead just want to try something else, and they'll go back and make Helldivers 3 probably for PS6. Everything isn't some teenage drama, but we made you. That's true. Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at it from a more mature standpoint, I think Arrowhead is... I mean, like I said, man, I think Arrowhead is extremely pleased with their outcome with Helldivers 2 and Sony. I mean, how could you not be? How could you? I mean, everybody there's rich, dude. You know, and their game is doing amazing. It brought them to a new level, and yeah, I think it's good to see a studio like Arrowhead say we want to try something new and different. I think that's good because you know the natural inclination for most studios is we got to make a third one as soon as we can, make it even bigger. But I think you're right. Like the beauty about their situation is that if let's say they go out with this new game, Arrowhead, and it just flops. I don't know that that'll happen, and I don't think it will. But let's just for hypothetical here, it flops bad, and it's like, wow, okay, guys. You know, I'm a little confused right now. Sorry, I just saw my member counter went to 27, but there was no notification. So, okay, I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm just gonna listen to what YouTube's telling. Apparently, we're at 27 members now, guys. I don't know. I don't know why it's not notifying me in the chat, but let's just say their next game flops. All right, and Sony has no involvement. The beauty of Arrowhead's situation is if that happens, they can just be like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. At least we tried. Anyway, Sony, you ready to make Helldivers 3? Sony's going to be like, we thought you'd never ask, you know? And yeah, it's a win. It's an instant win. That's the thing about having the type of success that a game like Helldivers 2 has found is that you really can just be like, okay, we'll come back to this well if we need to. And I'm sure they want to at some point. I mean, honestly, dude, a PlayStation 6 Helldivers 3, like a next-gen Helldivers 3 with a massive budget or a much bigger budget, much more planning out of content, I mean, hell yeah, dude, I'm there. I'd be very excited for that. Gaming Survivor, what is that? Before I click on it, tell me what that is. And guys, listen, we're going to do a last call here. I have a second stream I'm going to be doing. We're going to be doing some Ghost of Yotei New Game Plus gameplay. But we're going to be streaming here for about another 8 minutes. I'm probably going to cap it at the 3-hour mark. I don't want to drag it out like I have been the past couple streams. I think it's just been too much, getting like way too off topic in the last like hour and a half. Yesterday we streamed for 5.5 hours. And that's not a problem, but it's just like the last hour and a half is just like, what am I even talking about? So we'll do like a last call. If you want to drop any more support, you will have an opportunity to do it while I'm streaming Ghost of Yotei. But if you want to do it in this stream, contribute to the goal. Again, it says we're sitting at 27 members. If you want to drop any more member gifts, now would be the time to do it. If you want to become a member, do it. Do it now. Super chats, direct donations. Make sure you hit that like button. It's the best thing ever recorded. Gaming Survivor. I'll be the judge of that. You know what the problem? It's the I am the law clip. You know what the problem is with that is there's music playing in the background, and I can't. When I played it that one time, it gets copyrighted, dude. I mean, maybe if I made it like a soundbite that it just plays for a second and a half or 2 seconds, you know, maybe that would be fine. And Capcom lawyer saying MBG creativity is killed by corporate mandates. Helldivers 3 isn't guaranteed to succeed if it brings nothing new or people are fed up with that gameplay loop. Nothing is guaranteed. Yeah, that's true. I can agree with that. Nothing is a guarantee. But assuming that if they do want to make a Helldivers 3, they're going to try to do some new things. I mean, it would be weird if they didn't. It's like Helldivers 2 remastered. Oh my God. I joke, but it is Sony. So. And Rich Rod's here with a $2 super chat saying, Kojima, really? I hope your studio shuts down. How dare you, Rich Rod? Kojima Productions will live forever. Don't you know he left them a USB with all of his ideas for when he's passed away and they can continue? I mean, at this point, they're probably making an AI version. Knowing Kojima, he's training an AI. We're gonna have AI Kojima, bro. Okay? Don't worry, Rich Rod. Kojima ain't going nowhere. Why are you going to stream Ghost of Yotei? Just to check out the new features? Well, because I never got the chance to stream it on the channel yet, and I've been wanting to, but I didn't feel comfortable doing it because I know people were playing the story, and I didn't know when it felt like the right time in terms of like spoilers. But now that they introduced New Game Plus, I did beat the game. I do want to get the trophy for beating it on New Game Plus. I figure we could do at least one stream. Maybe we'll do multiple streams, but it's been a little while since I streamed some gameplay. So we'll stream that. I'll get that stream set up when we wrap up here. I don't know how long it'll be, maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Nothing too crazy. Rich Rod says, how dare you, Kojima? How dare you? Rich Rod. Rich Rod, what do you have, like the whole week off or something, bro? Been noticing here a lot more, which I appreciate. I do appreciate it. Oh, and so tomorrow is Thanksgiving in the U.S., so I'll be celebrating that tomorrow. I'm going to take my PlayStation Portal with me when I go over my in-laws. I'm going to try it out, and I'll report to you guys what that experience is like. My first time taking the Portal out for a stroll. We'll see. We'll see. I feel like a nerd. I'm not going to lie. My father-in-law is going to judge me. He's going to be looking at me like, what you got there, son? I'm like, just my PlayStation Portal, Dad. No, but I'm curious to see how it works. Don't the monthly membership super chats count as memberships? No, not for the member counter, not YouTube's member counter. That's why I've chose not to count it on mine as well. We only had one person use their milestone chat today, so even then it didn't count. So I don't know why it says. I mean, it says we have 27 members. I'm assuming YouTube wouldn't lie to me about that. Oh, by the way, guys, you have 3.5 minutes to hit the super chat goal. We need 2 more super chats, $5 or higher. The teal, that's teal, right? That's what that color is? Teal or higher? Or green? I don't know. Light, yeah, I think it's teal. You got 3 minutes. It's okay if you don't hit it. We got quite a few super chats today. But, you know, if you want to make that confetti pop before we wrap this up, it's all you. Black Friday. No Black Friday stream, dude. I'm not going out on Black Friday. Definitely not. All right, let me... Gaming Survivor. Those songs you made, just hang on to them. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to play them coming up. And yeah, tomorrow I am going to stream as well. That's what I meant to tell you guys. We will be doing our annual Thanksgiving stream. It's not going to be anything crazy. The biggest difference really is it happens a lot later. So it'll be like a later evening stream. It'll probably be 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. And basically I'm just going to be hanging out with you guys and taking the time to express my thanks and my gratitude and just chilling. That'll be a more chill stream. So we'll be doing that tomorrow as we wrap up November. Get rid of this here. Oh, yeah. One other thing I meant to mention. 2 quick bonus topics. Prince of Persia Remake. So, Prince of Persia Remake was announced like 5 years ago, and then it got completely clowned on. Ubisoft said, we're sorry, we're going to give it to a new team. And now we are hearing from Tom Henderson that Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time Remake is done and ready to release. It will be out mid-January. So that means Prince of Persia, Sands of Time Remake is probably going to be announced at the Game Awards next month. So keep that in mind. And the only other thing I wanted to mention here is really quick, Lies of P. There is a sequel in development, and the director of the Lies of P sequel, he recently won an award. The team that made Lies of P won an award. They won the Golden Joystick Award for Best Game Expansion for the Overture expansion, which I still haven't gotten a chance to play. I would love to, though. I want to. But he said, you can expect the most fun we can achieve within our next game. He says, please stay tuned for it. We are working really hard, and I will not disappoint you at all. So I'm assuming he's talking about Lies of P2. He's hyping us up. He's saying he's not going to disappoint us. He ain't going to let us down. What's a Thanksgiving? Isn't it a day where you express gratitude towards God? Sure. Yeah. I mean, for me, family gets together. We eat a Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey. Usually turkey. We hang out. And that's it. Yeah, we express our gratitude, I suppose. I'm going to bring a full-blown turkey on my stream tomorrow. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. All right, guys. That is going to wrap up this stream today. I may or may not change the title and thumbnail back to Press X Podcast. I'm not sure. I don't know if I just want to stick with we're live streaming, or if I want to go, continue with the Press X Podcast name. I'm not sure. I don't know why I'm so torn on it. Gaming Survivor, how dare you? How dare you? Guys, the only other thing I'm going to ask you to do is, as you are, Ham's great too, though, Wes. Ham's great too. The only other thing I'm going to ask you to do as you're heading out is please hit that like button, okay? Hitting the like button helps the streams. It's been a really mundane week in terms of gaming news. So when I say I'm thankful for those of you who are still tuning in, and especially those of you still showing support, seriously, thank you guys so much. That is the difference maker. So we hit 27 members today. Very much appreciated. We will have more members content coming up. We are going to be doing a Ghost of Yotei stream after this one. So if you want to come hang out with me for a little bit longer, please feel free to do so. And also thank you to everybody who dropped any super chats or direct donations. It all helps. Any donation you drop, you're contributing to the channel, funding the channel, and allowing me to do this. So appreciate it very much. And I also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for the streams, okay? He does a great job with those timestamps. If you guys see Devil Shooter in the comments, give him some thanks, show him some love. I know he appreciates it. Devil Shooter, keep it up, man. Thank you for what you do for the community. And that pretty much wraps it up. So, again, if you're going to hang out with me in the Ghost of Yotei stream, Wes, don't come in there causing problems. I'm giving you the warning now. But if you want to come hang out with me during the Ghost of Yotei stream, I will see you over there in a little bit. If not, I hope to see you tomorrow during our Thanksgiving stream and in upcoming streams. I did put out a news video earlier where if you want a rundown of the news quickly, you could go check that out. And that is it. All the bases are covered. So, all right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see some of you over in the next stream, and the rest of you I will catch tomorrow. So until then, take care, everyone.